Chapter 688, Rock. In order to spend more time cultivating, Zhuo Mo and the others chose to ride a large Mo steed. Fully grown sky sharks were about 900 zhang long. Their bodies were strong and was able to resist the harsh wind in the sky. In some regions, it was also used as a combat unit. Its vicious personality made it suited for battle. It was a Mo beast that lived in the sky, the void, and the chaotic turbulence. There were rarely things that were a threat for them. Its enormous body meant that the inside of its body was large enough to be used as accommodations. It was a good choice for long journeys. Zhuo Mo did not lack money, so they had rented a whole courtyard to themselves. Rather than say it was a yard, it was a residence made from 3 little houses. In order to make it easy for travelers to cultivate, there were blood pools that were used for cultivating Mo physiques inside the yard. It was a pity that the blood pool was not of any use to Zhuo Mo now. He only hoped that no one would disturb him. If Tseng Lianer was alone, she definitely would not cultivate so madly. However, she was alongside Zhuo Mo whenever Zhuo Mo started to cultivate Sun Shen power. The energies in her body would uncontrollably move and her Moon Shen power would also circulate. She had to follow Zhuo Mo's rhythm in cultivating or risk suffering side effects. Only at this time did she truly understand how freakish Zhuo Mo was. He seemed to never know exhaustion. He used any time he had to cultivate. It was fortunate that Zhuo Mo had many things he needed to practice, such as the 3 powers, so it gave her time to breathe, but even so she still felt that she couldn't keep up. Yet when she finally had a day of rest and inspected herself, she found to her shock that in a few short days her Shen power had grown by 1/10. In this whole day of rest, she was immersed in deep shock. Her deep eyes were full of emotion. Zhuo Mo did not have the time to dwell on his emotions. He squeezed everything he could out of his time. He needed to face each battle with all of his power. Zhuo Mo panted, his body was soaked with sweat. His fingers that dangled at his side were convulsing. He had just finished practicing high-difficulty finger movements. The Ling power he had was almost completely used up. Right now, he was able to control the change between Shen power and the 3 powers. Of the 3 powers, his weakest was Ling power, and this was the main focus of his practice. In the cultivation plan that Pu Yao had given him, the practice of spells was a very important part. Bowstring finger spell, 5-element communication, mist raindrop sword scripture, 100 Dhyana sutra records. All of these spells focused on transformation. Zhuo Mo had originally thought that his finger motions were pretty good, but when he saw the requirements for the bowstring finger spell, his scalp turned numb and his face went ashen. Cultivating this each time was like being tortured. But Zhuo Mo managed to persist. His Ling power had grown greatly and become even more pure, easier to control, and more powerful. Even though it was still far from satisfying Pu Yao, Zhuo Mo still felt a clear improvement, especially in the advance of his Shen power. His Shen power became more malleable and directing it was like moving a part of his body. Some blurry details seemed to resolve themselves and he could now unconsciously carry out some actions. Zhuo Mo, Pu Yao, and Wei were all very motivated. This quick advancement showed that their thoughts were in the right direction. In exploring unknown cultivation, what was most important was direction. If the direction was wrong and ran counter to the answer, the consequences were not just detrimental but could easily cause injury. If the general direction was right, then the details was just a matter of hard work and experience. After about 10 breaths, Zhuo Mo's breathing finally recovered. The sweat on his face disappeared. Zhuo Mo's recovery abilities were very strong due to his powerful Mo physique. This was an important reason that he had managed to persist. Turning his face, he saw a Gue sitting silently beside him. Zhuo Mo's gaze became much gentler. At this time, a ruckus sounded outside the door. Zhuo Mo couldn't help but frown. It had to be said that the Mo's sound blocking techniques were lacking compared to the Xiuzhe. The use of Mo matrices was far behind seal scripts, and there were not many that understood the use of Mo matrices. Zhuo Mo's gaze flickered to the room on the left. His gaze focused. Tseng Lianer was at a crucial time in her cultivation. The sound outside did not show signs of quieting down and became even louder. Mo sent a sound-blocking spell towards Tseng Lianer's room and then stood to walk out. Opening the gates, he saw a circle of people outside. I said that I'm not selling to you. The youth that was speaking had an angry expression as he tightly gripped a stone in his hand. Ah, you want sell? He doesn't have the patience to quibble with you. Even if you don't want to sell it, you have to. The one who spoke was a youth dressed grandly. His expression was proud as he played with a short staff in his hand. The short staff was inlaid with all kinds of precious stones, and it could be seen to be extremely valuable at a glance. There was a group of guards surrounding the youth that was selling stones with maliciousness in their eyes. Mo did not have any sense of justice. If this was another time, he wouldn't even look twice. But now, Tseng Lianer was at a crucial juncture. It would be troublesome if she was disturbed now. When his gaze flashed across the stone, Mo's pupils suddenly shrank. The stone was about the size of a basket, completely blue, and threaded with lines of blood red. It seemed slightly eerie. That stone was interesting. He felt a ripple of Shin power from it. This was extremely weak. If it wasn't that Mo's Shin power had become purer recently, he probably would have had a difficult time detecting it. This was the first time Mo had encountered something that contained natural Shin power. Was there things that contained Shin power like how Jingshi contained Ling power? At this time, a guard said darkly, "Buddy, for one stupid stone, we're giving you 20,000 mabe. Know your limits. If you anger our master, you won't get even one mabe." The youth with the stone had a flushed face. "I only said I'll trade, not sell. I'm only trading for Mo weapons." "Brigadier Mo weapon." "Brigadier Mo weapon? Ha, you're dreaming. You dare to ask so much of ye, you don't want to live." The young master snorted coldly. At this time, a voice suddenly interrupted. "I'll trade with you." Everyone immediately quieted. The stone-selling youth was not very excited. He looked suspiciously. "Brigadier Mo weapon, only Brigadier Mo weapons." This person was dressed normally and was not attention-catching. A person like this did not look like one that would have a Brigadier Mo weapon. Even the lowest of the Brigadier Mo weapons cost over 30,000 mabe on the market. Mo did not waste words and took out several Mo weapons. This black sickle is Brigadier level. It is formed from killing energy. With every person killed, the killing energy will increase. When the killing energy accumulates to a certain level, it can form fiendish souls. This Heaven Azure Dagger Axe is Brigadier level. It is as light as a feather, suited to fast attacks. It can rip through the void. This Blood Fiend Axe is 180,000 caddies heavy. It is suited to power type Mo physiques. When it is swung, an axe fiend will form. Which one do you want? When Mo introduced each Mo weapon, he would wave it and show it. He had many Mo weapons. They were all taken from the Mo experts that he had defeated before. The crowd around immediately shifted. Many people's eyes became burning hot. Even the guards were moved. All of them had expressions of greed. Each of these 3 Brigadier-level Mo weapons were all fine ones that were above 50,000 mabe. The 3 articles together were 150,000 mabe. The shock they gave could be imagined. The stone-selling youth stilled. From when he got the stone, he wanted to trade for a Brigadier Mo weapon, but it had been over half a year, and he still hadn't managed to trade for one. At many times, he had thought that his price was too high. When there were really 3 Mo weapons in front of him, he didn't know what to do. Seeing the other dumbstruck, Mo could only remind the other, "Which one do you want?" The stone-selling youth seemed to wake up and rushed out, "I want the Sky Azure Dagger Axe." Mo did not waste words. He waved his hand and the Sky Azure Dagger Axe flew in front of the youth. With a wave of his hand, that stone came out of the youth's arms and flew into his hands. "Where did you get the stone?" Mo asked. "The deep abyss of 100 energy jia." The youth hugged the Sky Azure Dagger Axe after saying this with an excited expression. A Brigadier-level Mo weapon. It really was a Brigadier-level Mo weapon. Having gotten the Mo weapon of his dreams, the youth felt as though he was dreaming. 100 energy jia. Mo knew the name. It was one of the jia on the way to Nether Spring Jia. He had remembered all of them, and this 100 energy jia was among them. At this time, a dark voice sounded. Young master, this one remembers that the compound was robbed a few days ago and lost many MO weapons. This Sky Azure Dagger Axe is among them. The one that spoke was one of the young master's guards. His eyes showed greed that he wasn't able to disguise. The furious young master immediately understood and snorted coldly. No wonder I find these MO weapons so familiar, they are from my compound. Come, capture this thief. The guards immediately surrounded Zwa Mo's expression was calm, but he was slightly surprised. He hadn't thought that he would encounter such an absurd matter. At this time, he detected movement from the yard. Sung Lianer had finished cultivating. Zwa Mo immediately lost the last qualm he had. He grinned and showed snowy white teeth. He smiled and said, "A few days ago, some thieves sneaked into my residence and stole many things from me. So it was you." The guards had shocked expressions. They had done things like planting evidence and accusing others many times, but it was the first time they were accused. Before they could react, the figure in front of them disappeared. A guard was hit with a slap on his face before he could react. Pia. His body seemed to be hit by a rampaging rhinoceros and was sent flying. He fell to the ground unconscious. Zwa Mo's control of the 3 powers in his body had increased, and so had his control of his MO physique. His figure flashed and he appeared like a ghost in front of another guard. His left hand shook and the shadow of his hand was like whip that accurately hit that shocked face. Another figure was sent flying. Zwa Mo's figure was lightning fast. In a flash, none of the guards were left standing. The entire area was silent. Everyone was shocked by the chaotic attacks. The young master's face was as white as paper. I am from Horizontal GSG family. Do you know Yes' nickname? Zwa Mo walked towards the young master. What name? The young master was like a frightened rabbit. Scalping zombie. Zwa Mo snarled. The young master fainted from too much fear. The other really had no resistance to fear. Zwa Mo shook his head. He walked next to the young master and, with practiced motions, stripped them of their possessions. Scalping always made him feel good. Chapter 689, Shin Crystal in Truth. Zwa Mo did not find the things these people had particularly valuable. What he wanted was to re-experience that feeling from his days at Wukong Mountain. Of course, he had to pretentiously sigh over the passing of time. He had once been satisfied for a long time by a few jingsher. That pure joy had become a beautiful memory long ago. Zwa Mo prepared to leave, but someone called him. Darren, is that blood fiend axe for sale? A man stepped out of the crowd and looked heatedly at Zwa Mo. Zwa Mo stopped walking and turned around. He examined the other and immediately understood. This person was a brigadier and was perfectly suited for the MO weapon. The MO weapons that Zwa Mo had were mostly taken from the elite members under Marshal Yes' command. They were mostly MO weapons that the general levels had wielded and were of extraordinary quality for brigadier-level MO weapons. Zwa Mo did not have much use for these brigadier-level MO weapons, but he also had lots of mabe. Therefore he said, "Trade only." The other immediately had an expression of difficulty, but when he saw the rock in Zwa Mo's hand, he was inspired. Maybe this Darren liked strange things? He had went to been to places. While he didn't have treasures, he had several strange articles. He took out everything he had and put them in front of him. He said respectfully, "Darren, all this one has is here." Zwa Mo was slightly surprised by the other's briskness. This person's reaction was quick. While he admired the other, with little Mo-guess caution in doing business, he naturally examined the articles in front of him seriously. The man was not rich and the pile of items were almost all fragments of things. There wasn't one complete MO weapon. Zwa Mo's eyes, however, suddenly lit up. A piece of broken sword that was rusted all over. When he touched the broken sword fragment, the Shun power inside was stimulated. An ancient item. Zwa Mo immediately understood. He picked up the broken sword. Unexpectedly, the sword was light as though it was a feather. There was something here. No wonder the man had kept it with him. The man had not recognized the origins of this item, but just the weight of the item would have been enough to pique his curiosity. "He'll trade for this?" Zuo did not hesitate. He waved his hand. The blood fiend axe turned into a streak of red light that embedded itself in the ground in front of the man. The man was overjoyed. "Many thanks, Darren." After saying this, he was afraid Zuo would regret the trade. He hurriedly picked up the blood fiend axe, put away everything and disappeared. He had picked up the broken sword by chance. Other than being unexpectedly light, it wasn't special at all. In the beginning he had searched for people to examine it, but other than marveling at its light weight, no one was able to identify it. It really was worth it to use a useless broken sword to him to trade for a Brigadier MO weapon. With this MO weapon, his power would skyrocket. The other people saw the man had used a rusty broken sword to trade for a fine Brigadier-level MO weapon. Their eyes turned red. Darren, please look here. Do you have anything you want? Darren, look here." They took out what they had and hoped that Zuo would trade for one of their items. Then they could also trade for a Brigadier-level MO weapon. There wasn't another place with bargains like this. An unknown stone, a rusty broken sword, these were actually traded for 2 high-quality Brigadier-level MO weapons. The other passengers on the Sky Shark heard the news and all ran in this direction. How could they miss such a good event? Such a noisy affair naturally disturbed the guards on the Sky Shark. The price of riding the Sky Shark wasn't low, so there was a full guard on board for security on the trip. But when they arrived, they coincidentally saw the heated scene. The price to travel on a Sky Shark was high, and consequently, the guests here definitely had some wealth. They quickly found that this Darren was not interested in the things that they thought were pretty good. It was usually a knick-knack of unknown origins that easily attracted his favor. After some more people successfully traded for MO weapons, the crowd immediately became even more restless. It seemed that this Darren had strange taste. Zuo had a whole bunch of Brigadier-level MO weapons on him. Since he had no use for them, it was worth it to trade them for useful things. Also, little Mogu had good eyes and knew the ways of doing business. Of course, he only profited and did not lose. When the leader of the guards walked over, he saw the scene of the trades. There seemed to be an endless number of MO weapons behind that guest, each was of extraordinary quality. Even though he had entered general level a long time ago and Brigadier level MO weapons were not of great use to him, he still pondered if he should trade for 1 or 2. It would be a great present to give to his juniors. The next few MO weapons traded away were all of outstanding quality. No wonder even the guards were moved. Fortunately, the leader of the guards did not forget his duties. He forced down his impulse. What he needed to do was to maintain order and prevent chaos. "Boss, there," a subordinate suddenly shouted. The leader of the guards stilled and turned his face. Following the finger of his subordinate, he saw the almost naked people lying on the ground. Wait, wasn't that young Master Ji? The leader of the guards broke out in a cold sweat. It was over. He had a deep understanding of young Master Ji's arrogance. However, the Ji family of the horizontal Jie was powerful and protective. Other people did not dare to resist. But young Master Ji was stripped so cleanly. The leader of the guard did not plan on thinking further about what would happen next. Inside, he grimaced. This had occurred on his Sky Shark, and he would most likely be affected as well. However, he did not immediately try to get justice for young Master Ji. He was experienced, and he knew that if the person who dared to act so against young Master Ji of horizontal Jie and his people was either powerful or had his own backing. No matter which, they would not be someone he could offend. But it was not good for young Master Jis group to be left lying naked in the street. Gritting his teeth, he said, "Put clothing over them." Some shark guards took off their outer robe and put them over the bodies of the Ji family members. Seeing no one step out, the leader of the guards sighed in relief. Putting clothes on young Master Ji was a test of this Darren's intentions. No one stopped him, so he said, "Help them back to their own rooms." No one paid attention to the movements of the shark guards. Everyone was excitedly attempting to trade with Zuo. Zuo of course detected it, but he ignored it. For him, this was just a small punishment. If the others still did not recognize what was good for him and came back to look for trouble, he did not mind giving that horizontal Jie family a memorable lesson. The shark guard leader quickly learned of what had happened, and his gaze as he looked at Zuemo became respectful and awed. Zuemo's business was quickly finished. His eyes were skilled and his consciousness swept across the items almost as soon as other people took them out. He immediately spotted if there was anything he was interested in. Today, he had obtained some good things. He was in a good mood. However, it was not worth it to waste his cultivation time for these things. He stopped his transactions and returned to his yard, ignoring the calls of the other passengers behind him. The shark guard leader opened his mouth but did not say anything in the end. Returning to the yard, Zuemo immediately set up a large number of jinji. Then he took out the stone streaked with blood. He raised his head and said to Tsing Lianer, who was looking at him with a curious expression, "Give me the green carp tongue sword to use." Tsing Lianer handed over the green carp sword. Zuemo held the green carp tongue sword and started to strike at the surface of the stone. The stone was cut piece by piece like a piece of dough. Tsing Lianer had a shocked expression. As the stone became smaller, her surprise increased. Ague felt Shen power and unconsciously moved closer to inspect the stone. Shen power. This stone actually contained Shen power. Zuemo's cutting movements became slower, and it was evident that it was taking effort to wield the green carp sword in his hand. As he continued to slice off layers, the concentration of Shen power contained in the rock layers became denser. The stone also became stronger. Zuemo had to channel Shen power in order to continue to slice off layers. As he cut deeper, the blood color became more apparent. Zuemo cut off the last piece of the surface. A pure and clear red cube appeared in front of the trio. Shen crystal. In that moment, Zuemo and Tsing Lianer stopped breathing at the same time. The Shen crystal was about the size of a walnut. It was completely red, clear and glowing, beautiful. What was even more enchanting was that the wave of Shen power it exuded was pure and gentle. It filled the entire yard. If not for the jinji that Zuemo had cast before, everyone on the sky shark would have been alerted to this wave of Shen power. There are actually Shen crystals in this world. Zuemo murmured to himself. His expression was grave. He naturally knew what this meant. In the Xiozha world, Jingshi mines were the core of the income for every sect. It was the most important resource of all resources, and the life of every sect. A crack had been opened in the gates to the Shen power era. At the time, the value in the discovery of Shen crystals was peerless. Holding the Shen crystal in his hand, Zuemo's Shen power seemed to be simulated. It became unprecedentedly active. Almost as his mind moved, a thread of Shen power came out of the Shen crystal and burrowed into Zuemo's body along his palm. When this Shen power entered Zuemo's body, it immediately merged with the Shen power inside Zuemo's body. Zuemo felt refreshed and comfortable. The light of the Shen crystal in his hand dimmed slightly. As expected, then Shen crystal could help him cultivate Shen power. Zuemo suddenly opened his eyes, the light in his eyes bright. He handed the Shen crystal to Tsing Lianer. Moments later, Tsing Lianer's expression changed. Tsing Lianer's Shen power was of a completely opposite attribute to his, but she could also use the Shen crystal. This showed that the Shen crystal's Shen power did not have any attribute. This would be of great aid to Shen power cultivation of any kind. If he had the help of Shen crystals, his cultivation would be even faster. If he could find enough Shen crystals, then his cultivation speed would multiply. This meant that the time he needed to advance would be greatly decreased. Agui's undying Shen power. Almost without hesitation, Zuemo made his decision. We need to go to the abyss of 100 energy Jia. Chapter 690, The Gravestone Oath. They really are trash. Anger flashed through the eyes of the middle-aged person. They have lost the face of the Ji family. If he wasn't my son, humph. The last word was spat out murderously. The temperature in the room suddenly dropped. Ji Heng, the present patriarch of the Ji family. He was not the eldest son of his family, but his martial-level power had allowed him to become the patriarch without any opposition. In the decades that he had been the patriarch, the power of horizontal Jia's Ji family had expanded quickly. Young Master has 5 general-level guards. This person having defeated them in a flash is not weak. The one who spoke was a middle-aged man with a goatee. He was Ji Shi, a member of the Ji family's branch family. However, he had the position of chief steward and was deeply trusted by Ji Heng. Have a Heng go and pick up that trash. Every time he goes out, he embarrasses us. After he returns, throw him into the deep emo hole, Ji Heng said coolly. Ji's heart shook. The deep emo hole was the cruelest training ground the Ji family had. It was filled with demonic monsters, and it had been many years since someone dared to go down. Being sent there had now become a form of punishment in the clan. Those that had committed great wrongs were thrown in there. If they were able to come out of there alive, they were spared their death sentence. Young Master is slightly proud, but he has not committed any major mistakes. She couldn't help but urge. He knew that if young Master was thrown into the deep emo hole, he wouldn't be able to come out alive with his power. Ji Heng smiled coldly, his white teeth cruel. If he cannot climb out, he is not qualified to be my son. She was silent. He knew that Master had already made his decision, and any further attempts at persuading him was futile. Ji Heng did not look at Ji Shi and said to himself, "As to that person who acted against us, have a Heng take care of him." Ji Shi nodded to indicate his understanding. He changed the topic. "Master, we haven't heard any news from the people we sent to the Emotion Temple. They most likely have all died." A shadow flashed through Ji Heng's eyes. He sneered coldly and said, "The Emotion Temple does have some skill to have formed Shen power. Is there any news of Xiao Emogu?" The Emotion Temple gave him great pressure. Martial level had only days ago been the greatest power in the Emo territories, but now they were not. The Emotion Temple was now the strongest existence. Ji Shi shook his head. He seems to have suddenly disappeared. According to our investigation, the Elder Core of Xian Kong Temple came to capture Xiao Emogu. 3 of the elders died in the hands of Xiao Emo guest group. The Emotion Temple's people appeared along the way. Strangely, Emotion Temple and Xiao Emogu did not have a conflict. Ji Heng had a thoughtful expression. A moment later, he raised his head. "Pay attention to Xiao Emogu. His Shen power is not as powerful as the Emotion Temple, but he does not have a Shen temple. He should be cultivating it some other way." "Yes." Ji Shi responded and then left the room. Ji Heng sank into deep thought. Moments later, he suddenly rose, left the room, and flew into the air. A short while later, he came to a well-concealed valley. The surroundings were heavily guarded. He was very familiar with this place. Entering the mountain valley, there was a Shen temple. While the Shen temple was still incomplete, but there was a sacrificial altar and the main temple. It could be seen that the Shen temple hadn't been constructed recently. It was at least a decade old. He slowly walked to the center of the sacrificial altar and spread his arms. A strange feeling rose. No one knew that 10 years ago, he had started to study Shen power. But 10 years had passed and progress had been slow. Shen power was a sensitive matter. Out of consideration for secrecy, he had never publicized the Shen temple. The sudden appearance of the Emotion Temple was a great blow for him. So belief was the most important thing. A hint of decisiveness flashed across his eyes. As he continued to cultivate, Zhuo Mo's spell skill level rose rapidly. His Ling power was the weakest of the 3 powers. Every improvement in that would directly increase Zhuo Mo's skill at controlling Shen power. According to Pu Yao's new categorization method, his Mo physique skill level barely reached first class, his Yao arts were second class, and his spell skill level, even after his furious cultivation spree, had just reached third class. Pu Yao judged that Zhuo Mo's Shen power control was third class. The most important cause was that his skill with spells was dragging him down. There was someone to compare to. That rhinoceros Mo god. Pu Yao's judgment of him was earth level in power, first class in technique. It could be seen just how great the difference between them was. It wasn't just the difference in Shen power, even the difference in technique was great. However, Zhuo Mo was not dispirited. He was filled with fighting spirit. The Shen power inside his body was growing every day, and his technique was growing better by the day. His right hand could endlessly provide him with Shen power as though he had a natural Shen crystal inside his body. This was an advantage that no one else had. As for techniques, Pu Yao had already made a list for him. If he could master those frightening spells, he believed that he could conquer Shen power. In Pu Yao's model, if Zhuo Shen power methodology could reach first class, and his Shen power level reached intermediate mortal level, or if his methodology was second class and his Shen power was late mortal level, he would be able to match a martial level without the little Mo treasure cup. Zhuo did not have any interest in martial level, but he was enchanted with the study of Shen power methodology. It would allow him to more easily discover the mysteries of Shen power and could help him understand the underlying principles of Shen power. For other people, fighting was the most important. But for Zhuo, what he needed to discover was the essence of Shen power. If he could understand the principles of Shen power, then he would have a way to resolve the undying Shen punishment. When a certain technique was practiced to a very high level, its power could allow you to hold an advantageous position in battle. This was the common saying, one novel move to make a living. Once one had several of these moves, the chances of victory would greatly increase. But if you wanted to discover the roots of power, you needed to understand as many methods of use as possible. Each method represented utilization of a certain quality of that power. The more qualities of the power you mastered, the closer you were to the true essence of the power. This path he chose was the more difficult path. Also, the practice of methodology was something that one could not take a shortcut with. It was completely a labor of effort. One had to tirelessly practice it over and over until it became instinct. Only then would this method, or rather, this quality of power became something that you understood at a fundamental level rather than just cursory understanding. This was what Zhuo was pursuing. His right hand that could continuously form Shen power enabled him to invest more time into the dull and vast practice of methods. Zhuo had finished using the Shen crystal. He made a general estimate. The Shen power contained in the Shen crystal was about 20 days' worth of Shen power produced by Zhuo's right hand. This amount was significant. Undoubtedly, if he could possess enough Shen crystals, it would greatly increase the progress of his Shen power cultivation. There was still a while before reaching 100 energy Jia. He decided to temporarily put this matter aside until he reached there. He had carefully recorded what he had experienced during his study. Then he passed these reflections back to Cloud Si Jia through Pu Yao. These reflections would be organized and then added to the Pu Wei library. Zhuo did not hide anything on how to cultivate Shen power. He did not have the time to go back to Cloud Si Jia, so he could only use this method to make a minor contribution to Cloud Si Jia. But Zhuo had never thought that this action, one he felt minor, would directly push Cloud Si Jia into the era of Shen power. Pu Wei Library had a strict entrance policy. Those that were able to enter at the present were those that had followed him for a long time. Zhuo's subordinates had a nearly blind trust in him. The cultivation reflections among the great number of jade scrolls were always the most welcome content. In the present Cloud Si Jia, cultivating 3 powers at the same time was a new fad. Due to their isolated location, they did not have much information coming in from the outside world. However, their trust in Zhuo allowed them to unhesitatingly choose to cultivate the 3 powers. Zhuo did not know of all this. In the sea of consciousness, the 3 were in discussion. Progress is too slow. Pu Yao frowned. He was not satisfied with Zhuo's progress. Based on this speed, it would take at least 5 years for your spells to reach first class alone. You also have to elevate your Yao arts to first class. Zhuo also didn't know what to do. His talent on spells was the weakest of the 3 powers. He had diligently followed Pu Yao's cultivation plan, but Pu Yao was still dissatisfied with his rate of progress. The difficulty of moving from 3rd class to 2nd class was far great difficulty, and moving from 2nd to 1st class was multiple times more difficult than that. Pu Yao also didn't have a solution. Zhuo was hardworking almost beyond Pu Yao's imagination, but his lack of skill and talent in spells was almost beyond Pu Yao's imagination. Zhuo was, however, unusually outstanding in the Mo skills and Yao arts. Damn it, spells were about to become Zhuo's shortcoming. Pu Yao's expression was slightly ugly. If Zhuo's spell skill level really wasted too much time, then it meant that the path that he had modeled had a fatal weakness. At this time, Wei suddenly spoke. Maybe you can try the gravestone oath. Gravestone oath? Zuemo stilled. What is that? He hadn't thought that Pu Yao, who usually looked down on Wei and had repeated objected to this, to say, maybe you can try it? Zuemo looked in confusion at the duo. Wei slowly spoke. The gravestone oath is a method of using the gravestone armor. Gravestone armor? Zuemo's expression was blank. He could not connect the topic at hand to the gravestone armor. The use of the gravestone armor is actually a kind of self-sacrifice. In essence, it is a trade. Sacrifice oneself in trade for power to protect. Wei's expression was solemn and carried an indescribable devoutness. Zuemo jumped in fright. You are saying for me to turn into the gravestone armor? It can be said to be something like that, but also not. Wei said calmly, in the past, in order to obtain the power for me to protect my tribe, I chose to make the greatest sacrifice in order to gain the greatest amount of power. But you do not need this kind of power. Similarly, you do not have make such a large sacrifice. This is the rule of the gravestone. Zuemo seemed to understand slightly. The gravestone oath is frequently used by the inheritors of the gravestone armor. In order to pursue greater cultivation, they would frequently swear certain directed oaths. Zuemo inquired, you mean that I need to accept your inheritance? Chapter 691, Buzhou City. The power to protect comes at a price, Wei said meaningfully. His deep gaze flashed with a light that was stubborn and determined. Zuemo stilled, looking away. He thought of a Gui. In terms of protection, there was probably none that was more determined than a Gui's protection. But at the same time, there was no protection that carried such a cruel price. Was this what it meant to protect someone? Zuemo's thoughts swirled. Wei did not speak. Pu Yao also maintained his silence. There was only the crackling of the eerie flames in the sea of consciousness. Moments later, Zuemo looked up and grinned to show an unconcerned smile. You want to frighten me? From every angle, this seems to be a profitable business. Why wouldn't I do it? Tell me, how do I do this? Wei looked deeply at Zuemo. You are sure? So chatty, it is best to be quick. Gu is in a hurry to cultivate. Can you afford to waste guest time? Zuemo glared. Wei smiled. It is very simple. As he finished saying this, the gravestone in Zuemo's sea of consciousness suddenly shattered into pieces. It turned to black energy that became snakes that burrowed into Zuemo's body. Then the black energy formed into a little gravestone inside Zuemo's body. There were many complex gray patterns on the surface of the new formed gravestone. If one did not knock closely, it would be hard to detect them. In this moment, Zuemo seemed to understand something. To abide by your ceremony, to execute your wishes, to swear your oath, will you? An ancient voice echoed in Zuemo's mind. This scene summoned many memories. But Zuemo immediately detected a difference. The lines were not right. He remembered the first time it had been to abide by my ceremony, to execute my wishes, to swear my oath. How come it changed? But Zuemo did not hesitate for long. When he made his decision, his mind was filled with wise words. The power to protect comes at a price. Taking a deep breath, the uncaring smile on Zuemo's face faded. His expression became solemn and he said, I'm willing. When the words escaped his lips, the complex patterns on the surface of the gravestone suddenly lit up like a web of light. Zuemo's mind blanked. Moments later, when he recovered from his daze and his eyes refocused, his first action was to touch his chest. A strange feeling came. When the gravestone had entered his heart in the past, it had felt rootless and intangible. But now, while the gravestone was still the gravestone, it seemed to have grown many roots in his heart. This is it? Zuemo asked Wei in puzzlement. Wei's expression was slightly tired, but he still smiled and said, yes, you did not require much, so the price you paid was not large. From now on, the effect of practicing your spells will be 3 times what it was before, and the price you need to pay is... Zuemo looked at Wei. That is? Wei trailed off. The tendons in Zuemo's forehead started to throb. It is. Wei was smiling. It is your mom. Zuo erupted. His temples throbbed as he howled angrily at Wei's face. Wei had a faint smile as he calmly waved a finger. His expression was dignified. Not my mom. Zuo almost went crazy. I will kill you. I will kill you. The most crucial information being withheld left Zuo's anger burning. If the heavens bestowed a metal rod to him right now, he would skewer this horrid person and burn him over a fire. Also, he would put on enough hot chili. Wei looked at Zuo with a smile. That smile, that expression, it was like there was, come beg me, written on his face. Zuo gritted his teeth. To deal with a lowly person like this, it seemed he had to use his ultimate move. The anger on Zuo's face faded as he said darkly, Wei, we should calculate rent. You have lived here a long time, but you haven't paid rent. Right? Ji only accepts Jingshi and no other currency. Also, don't think of using spells, mo skills, or other things to make up your debt. Ji only wants Jingshi. Wei's smile froze on his face. Pu Yao, who had been watching silently, stepped back and hid in the flames. It would not be good to appear in front of Zuo at this time. If the city gates were burning, it would still affect the fish in the moats. Rent was a great problem. Oh, that actually, your gravestone oath is very simple. There will be a day in every month that you will lose all power until your Shen power can resolve the undying Shen power. How about it? This price isn't too great. I had to work hard to obtain this for you. Choosing gravestone oaths is a highly technical matter and demands great experience. It isn't something normal people. Wei nattered on as though he had done great favor by completing a hard task. Zuo snorted coldly. He turned and then swaggered out of the sea of consciousness. Behind him, Wei wiped away his cold sweat. As expected, it was easy to forget himself. Pu Yao stepped out of the flames with an expression of scorn. Coming out of the sea of consciousness, Zuo was thinking. Losing all of his abilities for one day of the month in exchange for 3 times the effect when practicing spells, this was a very profitable transaction. However, this was a hidden weakness. If he encountered danger on the day that he lost all of his powers, then it was over for him. It seemed that he needed to make preparations. While this created a hidden weaknesses, Zuo was still very satisfied with the gravestone oath. 3 times the effect meant that his training time could shrink by 2/3. In the yard, Zuo started to practice spells. He was using the bowstring finger spell. This was a very complex and profound finger spell that was primarily based on finger movements. It belonged to a sect from before the 1,000-Year War, and it was the sect's founding spell. There were pitifully few high-level finger spells in the present. There were only some crude spells such as the Little Art of Cloud and Rain that used finger movements. Xianxia currently believed that when the control of Ling power reacted a certain level, they could leave behind finger movements. Theoretically, this was completely correct. But this finger spell was completely different. Its intentions was to use finger movements to allow Xianxia with low cultivation to use higher-level spells. From the moment he started to practice the finger spell, Zuo immediately detected differences. His Ling power seemed to have become more sensitive. Some parts that he did not understand before were much clearer. After practicing a few times, Zuo's finger movements became smoother and unlike the clumsiness of the past. As expected, it was effective. Zuo became alert. Cultivating Ling power had always been a painful matter for him. Zuo was enchanted with the ease when he cultivated mo skills and yao arts. But today, the pain had flown away. Zuo finally found that familiar yet unfamiliar feeling of ease. After practicing furiously for 12 hours, Zuo had not slowed down, still hungry for more. This feeling was great. Based on this speed, Zuo had enough confidence that he could raise his spell level to first class in a short amount of time. He suddenly felt the sky shark descending. Someone knocked on the door. Zuo's consciousness spread and he saw the person who came. It was the leader of the sky shark guards. He waved his hand and the door opened on its own. Honored Darren, our shark has reached Buzhou City. According to the original schedule, we will stay here for 3 days. If Darren finds staying on board boring, you may want to go explore, the leader said respectfully. There were ways to inform all guests, but the Shark Guard leader still decided to make the trip personally to show respect. Someone as strong as this was qualified to receive this respect. Zuoremo nodded. I understand. The guard leader saw this and did not talk anymore. He bowed and then left. I have heard that Buzhou City produces white ridge snake bones. It is of use to me. Sung Lianer suddenly spoke up. White ridge snake bones? Zuomo's reaction was quick. Your MO physique? Sung Lianer nodded and explained. A secret of our White Fang clan. I learned from my father. The white ridge snake bones can improve our White Fang MO physique. However, the white ridge snake bones are only produced in a few places, Buzhou City being one of them. Hearing this, Zuoremo nodded and said, let's go and see. I hope that you have enough luck to find some this time. Sung Lianer smiled. While she had changed her appearance to a normal one, this smile was still filled with beauty. Aheng, you have to help me kill him, the young master of the Ji family gritted out. He had never been humiliated so. Being beaten and stripped naked had actually happened to him. Whenever he thought of what had happened that day, he wanted to find a crack in the ground and bury himself. It was too embarrassing. Aheng was not tall. His body was thin, his skin dark, his hair short and bristly. He was dressed in short robes and looked like a manual laborer without any presence of an expert. But a person like this was an existence that people in the Ji family feared. Aheng looked with slightly pity at the young master. This idiot didn't know what fate was awaiting him when he returned. However, he did not show any disrespect on the surface. He laughed lightly. Young master, do not worry. It is not so easy for someone to get away with shaming our Ji family. The Ji family young master had an excited expression. All right. I will want to be present that day. I want to personally see how this guy will die. When he finished, his tone was bloodthirsty and hateful. Aheng smiled dismissively. In his eyes, this kind of cruelty was just an expression of being useless. He's exiting the Sky Shark now, a subordinate reported. Suddenly, a light flashed across Aheng's eyes. He stood and walked outside. The young master of the Ji family seemed to become excited. His eyes were red as he hurried behind Aheng. Aheng did not pay attention to the young master. His body moved like lightning towards the place his subordinate had reported. People along the way were alarmed and moved aside. Almost at the same time, Zuoremo seemed to feel something. However, his gaze moved towards the other side of the street. His expression couldn't help but show a thread of shock. That was... Chapter 692, Feng Xan Zi Yao. An enormous group of Yao were slowly heading in this direction. It was common to see Yao in the Mo territories, but it was rare to see such a large group of Yao. There were also many high-level Mo guards around the group. Zuoremo muttered inside, was this a Yao envoy? The society structure of the Yao and Mo were completely different. The Yao had many large clans, but the Council of Elders were the highest power of the Yao. Among the Mo, the fractions divided everything up, heroes leading their families to rule over an area. It was the first time Zuoremo had seen a group of Yao receive such a level of welcome. Buzhou City was part of the land of the Tang family. The Tang family's most famous expert, Tang Qin, ruled multiple Jie with his martial-level power. The Tang family was also a family with a long history. It could be traced back to the Thousand-Year War. The Tang family's style was a peaceful one, and they paid attention to the development of their lands. Due to this, they were respected by the people. Was the Tang family going to ally with the Yao? This thought flashed through Zuomo's mind, but he quickly threw it to the back of his mind. The Tang family allying with the Yao had nothing to do with him. He was just making a short stop in Buzhou City and naturally would not worry too much about this matter. At this time, a sharp presence filled the entire street around him. Zuoremo raised his head in surprise. Had someone recognized them? His upper body did not move as he pulled a gui. They both seemed to slide backwards like he was on ice. His movements were relaxed and free. Sung Lianer followed silently behind him. Her movements seemed more ethereal and eerie. There seemed to be a shadow moving constantly. A hint of shock flashed across Aheng's face. The other's movement was unusually smooth. They were able to immediately break free of his lock. It was rare for him to encounter such an event. But then he snorted. His body suddenly became blurred and divided into 6 copies. The copies turned to 6 gray shadows that leapt at the trio from different directions. It was the first time that Mo had encountered such an unique Mo physique, and he couldn't help but feel slight interest. His hand opened slightly, and his 5 fingers danced at an unique rhythm. A strong suction formed at his palm. One of the gray shadows was trapped by the suction force and immediately became unable to move. Collection art was not a high-level Yao art, but it had other abilities when used in this situation. Mo's Mo skills were first class, his Yao art second class, and his spells third class. His spells were too weak to face enemies. His Mo skills were the best and was enough to win this fight, but he would lose a chance to train. The gains received from battle was more effective and clearer than usual practice. His Yao arts could be used to fight and also needed to be improved. It was perfect to use now. Seeing Mo unexpectedly use Yao arts, Sung Lianer immediately understood and perceptively did not act. Ague also seemed to understand the situation. She silently allowed Mo to pull her and did not attack. For Mo, it took almost no thought for a low-level Yao art like collection art to form. The gray shadow that he had caught seemed to be made from a ball of mist. Its figure was very similar to that person, but the features were blurry. While they were lightning fast, Mo found that their movements were still slightly stiff. Seeing the collection art was effective, Mo's fingers moved. A few more collection arts locked onto the other gray shadows. Once Mo's collection art appeared, Aheng frowned. Yao. If this was any other situation, he would not have any misgivings and would directly kill the other. However, the news of Ji Li Yes group arriving in Mo territory was a hot topic. Old news such as the alliance of Yao and Mo were once again mentioned. The Mo were close to the Yao, and it was common for the 2 races to marry. However, compared to the frequently interchange between the people, the attitudes of the governments were not so harmonious. It was just because the 2 had a common enemy that they could stand on the same side regarding major issues. Of course, this was also related to the fact that the Mo were made up of many fractions and lacked a true king. But the furor caused by Ji Li Yes group caused the relationship between Yao and Mo to once again be in the public spotlight. Aheng immediately felt wary at the sudden appearance of a Yao expert at such a sensitive time. The Ji family and the Tang family were usually at peace. The 2 even encouraged marriages between the families. However, it was frowned upon to kill people in another's jia. If one wasn't careful, it was possible to strain relations between the 2 sides. In this span of time, the other gray figures had charged. Their movements were slightly stiff, but the murderousness they gave off was not false. At this time, Mo's other hand rose and drew out a circle. A silver blinding hoop of light. Iscrack. The gray shadows seemed to hit a wall of lightning. Countless electrical arcs released, and lightning snakes walked. The lightning immediately swallowed the gray shadows and did not leave anything behind. Aheng's pupils suddenly contracted. Such a powerful Yao art. Ichem. Sky pole lightning hoop. A bright voice suddenly spoke. Aheng's heart shook even more. He hadn't even detected this person coming so close. He turned his face, and when the other's appearance entered his field of view, he was shocked again. Yao. Who are you? The incomer asked as he looked at Mo with curiosity. They say that the sky pole lightning hoop had been lost long ago. I hadn't thought that someone would still know it. So interesting. Mo raised his eyes to look at the other and was astounded inside. This person had been silent when approaching, like a ghost. If it wasn't that Mo's 6th sense was much stronger than the average person, he would have had a difficult time detecting them. This person was not old. His clothing was tasteful, and it could be seen at a glance that he had status. The other had a sunny smile and seemed friendly. However, Mo did not answer. While the other looked harmonious, Mo could feel a thread of a chilling presence from the other. This presence was extremely faint and hidden deeply. However, Zuomo's sixth sense was above normal. He was unusually sensitive to dangerous presences. This cold presence gave him an extreme feeling of danger. It was like a snake coiled in the darkness, cold and cruel. Also, this kind of cold cruelty was hidden in that sunny and warm smile. It caused Zuomo's hairs to stand up. "Sir is?" A Heng showed a smile as he looked thoughtfully at the other. "I am Feng Xianxia." The youth smiled. A Heng's expression changed. "So sir is Feng Xianxia, my apologies for my manners. I hear that among the younger generation, Brother Feng is a leader." His heart was filled with helplessness. The more he didn't want to encounter something, he encountered it. Feng Xianxia was the guard leader of Ji Li's group and also an expert among the Yao. His power was unfathomable and a Heng did not have any confidence he would win in a fight. Feng Xianxia smiled and said, "Minuscule abilities like mine cannot be seen in public. What are you two fighting about? How about everyone take a step back for my sake?" A Heng's face was smiling. Since Brother Feng said this little brother is no problems. At this time, Zuo saw the Ji family young master hurrying over and understood what had happened. An imperceptible smile came to the corner of his mouth. "This one doesn't have any objections." Feng Xianxia was overjoyed. "Great. Why don't I have a drink with you too, since we have resolved matters peacefully?" The Ji family young master was about to speak when a Heng glanced at him. His cold gaze caused the young master's curses to shrink back into his mouth. A smile once again hung on a Heng's face. "Naturally." Feng Xianxia turned to look at Zuo. Zuo shook his head. "My apologies, this one still has matters and not the time. Please pardon me." Finishing, he left with a Gue and Xianxia. Feng Xianxia's gaze immediately darkened. A Heng saw this, and an imperceptible smile flashed across his lips before disappearing. "Brother Feng, let's go and drink until we are drunk." A sunny smile came back onto Feng Xianxia's smile. "All right." Feng Xianxia. Zuo was sure that he had heard this name somewhere. But no matter how hard he thought about it, he could not remember. He gave up, but he was sure that Feng Xianxia was extremely powerful. Zuo noticed that Feng Xianxia had come from that Yao group. Right now, Zuo only wanted to cultivate and not get dragged into other matters. Consequently, he had not hesitated in refusing Feng Xianxia's invitation. "Let's go and see where we can buy White Ridge snake bones." Zuo pushed his thoughts aside and said to Xianxia. Zuo's group went into a few shops and did not have any discoveries. A kind-hearted storekeeper told them honestly that what they sold would not reach the level of the White Ridge snake bones and suggested for them to go the rare articles hall to look. The three followed the shopkeeper's suggestion and went to the rare articles hall. The entrance to the rare articles hall was normal and almost in disrepair. It seemed like an average little store and did not show any of the presence of the best store in Buzhou City. Zuo and Xianxia exchanged a look. Both of them were slightly surprised. But since they had come, Zuo decided to go in to look. When they stepped across the doorway, the scene in front of them changed. Weapons of strange shapes hung in the void in front of them. Each weapon had a completely different presence, some warm, some explosive, some cold. These weapons of various styles were arranged in parallel to form a staircase made completely of weapons. Stepping on the stairs, they could clearly feel the unique presence of the weapons under their feet. This feeling was extremely strange. Zuo couldn't help but sigh in shock. Such extravagance! Each of these weapons were general-level weapons. Any of them, if put on the market, would be good things. But in this place, they were just used as stairs for people to step on. Xianxia's eyes immediately lit up. With this staircase, it could be seen just how powerful Rare Articles Hall was. When they walked to the end of the staircase, an old person was already waiting there. Chapter 693, A Complete Set of White Ridge Snake Bones. Welcome, please. Are you here to sell or purchase treasures? The old person asked respectfully. Zuo nodded and said directly, Does your store have White Ridge snake bones? White Ridge snake bones? A hint of surprise flashed across the unclear eyes of the old person. He raised his head and said, "Our store does have white ridge snake bones. Please come with me." Finishing, he turned and walked inside. The trio followed behind the old man. The ceiling above their head was like the night sky. Light streaked across like meteors, reflecting on MO matrices. There were MO weapons floating in the sky above them like innumerable stars. Threads of various colors fell from the MO weapons and swayed like a sea of grass. Zhuomo's thoughts shifted. He reached out a hand to grab a green thread in front of him. When his hand touched the thread of light, one of the MO weapons above his head lit up and then it appeared in Zhuomo's palm. Sung Lianer was extremely interested. She pulled on a silver thread of light. A pair of sickles appeared in her hands. The old person did not hurry them and explained with a smile. "This is the MO weapon firmament of the store. The MO weapons you are holding are not the real ones, but the presence is the exact same as the real article. You can examine them at your leisure. If you want one of them, you only need to pay the corresponding mabe and it will fly into your hands." Zhuomo was skilled in MO matrices. After standing and observing the MO weapon firmament for a while, he had a general understanding of the mechanism. He smiled slightly and opened his hand. The MO weapon in his hand turned into a light that flew into the firmament above them. He naturally did not have a desire for the MO weapons here. A short time later, the old person took the trio to an elegant tea room. In the tea room, a white-faced and beardless middle-aged MO was idly drinking tea. The middle-aged MO saw the trio and showed a smile. He motioned with his hand. "Please sit." Then he filled 3 cups and handed them over. A pleasing fragrance spread in the tea room. The old person had an intoxicated expression. Seeing this, the middle-aged MO also handed the old person a cup. The old person was overjoyed and carefully took the teacup. He said hurriedly, "Many thanks, Chief Steward." Sung Lianer suddenly spoke, "A pretty good tea, Stone Sprout." The middle-aged MO showed surprise and joy. "I hadn't thought that Mrs. also enjoys tea like me. Greetings." Sung Lianer took a sip. After savoring it for a moment, she said serenely, "I hear that your store has white ridge snake bones?" The middle-aged MO gave a small smile. "Yes, this small store has a complete set of white ridge snake bones." Complete set of white ridge snake bones. Sung Lianer was unable to keep her composure or disguise her joy. The white ridge snake bones were hard to find, and a complete set of white ridge snake bones was much rarer. The middle-aged MO smiled slightly and said, "Yes, this set of white ridge snake bones is complete and flawless. Truthfully, it is the first time the store has encountered such a perfect set of white ridge snake bones since it was founded." "Name your price," little Mo said with bravado. "Trade only." The middle-aged MO took a sip of tea before saying, "Materials of the same level. If it is a MO weapon, it has to be an Earth MO weapon." "Earth MO weapon?" Zhuomo was slightly shocked. A Earth MO weapon was just one level below Sky Missouri weapon. In all of the MO territories, there were just 108 of those. Sung Lianer's green cicada sword and the previous black-hearted treasure coins had all been Earth MO weapons. Zhuomo had forged the black-hearted treasure coins into the little MO treasure cup. If they brought out the green cicada sword, it would undoubtedly expose their identities. Sung Lianer put down the teacup without changing her expression. She shook her head and said, "It is too expensive." "It is very expensive," the middle-aged MO nodded his head and said, "but it is worth this price." Sung Lianer was silent. The other was right. A complete set of white ridge snake bones was also a priceless treasure. She stood and said to Zhuomo, "Let's go." Little Mo didn't stand. He turned towards the middle-aged Mo. "Does your store want Earth MO weapons, or Earth-level MO weapons?" The middle-aged Mo was slightly surprised. He understood what little Mo was saying. Did the other have MO weapons that could match Earth MO weapons? There were 108 Earth MO weapons, and all of them had been observed and their characteristics recorded. It was possible to find information on everyone. MO weapons that could rival Earth MO weapons. Had some MO weapon grandmaster made a new work recently? The middle-aged MO was puzzled, but he still said with a smile, If the level of the MO weapon can reach the level of an Earth MO weapon, it is possible. An Earth-level MO weapon that was not among the ranking of Earth MO weapons could undoubtedly be sold for a higher price. No one wanted their MO weapon to be one that other people knew everything about. Zuo stood. "All right, we will return after a few days." Seeing the certainty on Zuo's face, the middle-aged MO felt some trust. He stood to see them off. "This one will respectfully wait for your visit." Leaving the rare artifacts hall, the trio walked on the street. Zhang Lianer serenely spoke, "Other than the green cicada sword, we do not have any other Earth MO weapons." "Well, just forge one." Zuo's words were filled with great confidence. "Forge one?" Zhang Lianer was astonished. She had not expected such words. Zuo had not been joking. For a person who was knowledgeable in MO matrices, skilled in forging, that possessed the Sunshin fire, and was wealthy, it was not very difficult to forge a MO weapon. However, Zuo would have to do all he could to make an Earth MO weapon. But it wasn't that Zuo didn't have any confidence. He had studied the Blackheart treasure coins and the green carp tongue sword. Naturally, they could not trade the green carp tongue sword. All of the MO territories knew that Marshal Yu had died by Zuo's hand. If this thing was made public, it would definitely draw a tsunami of attention. The next problem was that Zuo needed to forge an Earth MO weapon using the materials he had on hand. He had a lot of good things. As the quality of materials increased, their uses became more general. In terms of low-level materials, talismans and MO weapons used completely different materials. But when it came to the higher grades, the two overlapped. Zuo had a lot of high-level materials, especially what he had taken from Ji Zheng's body. Those were all top materials. Zuo also had an advantage. He had large numbers of general-level MO weapons. In that fight against Marshal Yu, almost all the general-level MO under Marshal Ye's command had been killed. Their MO weapons naturally landed in Zuo's hand. Other than the MO weapons he had given his soldiers, Zuo still had a large number of MO weapons. These remaining MO weapons were not of great use to the present Zuo. He didn't lack mabe at this time, so there was no point in selling them. Also, the materials that he had to use now were all precious treasures that almost couldn't be bought with mabe. Zuo's idea was based on these MO weapons. Before the Thousand-Year War, there had been many MO weapon forging methods, but that were now lost. In Weiss words, it was called craftsmanship. Wei was experienced and the ultimate authority in this area. He could trace any kind of MO weapon forging method back to the ancient era. Ever since Zuo took the gravestone oath, Weiss' attitude was so good it was frightening. He was completely different from his previous half-living state. After enjoying the meticulous concern, Zuo quickly found a nightmare had begun. Wei was actually a chatterbox. Heavens! After knowing this guy for so long, Zuo only now found that Wei was a chatterbox. Even Pu Yao, who ghosts and monsters avoided, chose the path of avoidance when facing the maddening nattering. Zuo finally understood what it was like to be haunted. Zuo, you want to use the weapon layering craftsmanship? This idea is good. However, I'm not sure about many of the details. It has been too long. You need to try it yourself. Oh, I remember. I've never introduced the history of the weapon layering craftsmanship to you. Ayaya, I've actually missed such an important matter. I'm old, my memory is failing. Oh, speaking of the weapon layering craftsmanship, I have to start from 35,000 years ago. At that time, Zuo felt as though a bunch of flies were buzzing around him. So terrifying. Stop! Zuo yelled at Wei. Wei immediately closed his mouth. His eyes were wide and his expression innocent. Zuo reflexively rubbed his head. He knew that ever since he had swore the gravestone oath, there was a connection between him and Wei. All of Weiss' hidden personality was now exposed. Calmed down, Zuo started to think. He did plan on using the weapon layering craftsmanship. This was the best choice at the moment. The weapon layering craftsmanship was to layer many MO weapons to forge one MO weapon. Zuo had learned of craftsmanship methods that had been lost after the Thousand-Year War from Wei. The quality of the MO weapons he had was very good. If he used the weapon layering craftsmanship, and he was lucky, he might obtain an earth MO weapon. However, while Wei had done some MO weapon forging, he was not a proper MO weapon forger. Zhou Mo had to explore many things by himself. Fortunately, there were MO weapon pools in Buzhou City specifically for forging MO weapons. The forging of talismans mostly used fire, so what resulted were all kinds of cauldrons. Forging MO weapons occurred in MO weapon pools. Buzhou City had an underground nether river that was very suitable for forging MO weapons. Most of the MO weapon pools were constructed by the underground nether river. The underground nether river was silent. It was about 20 li wide and spectacular to see. The river water of the underground nether river was as sticky as glue, black yet clear, and silent as it flowed. When one walked along the river, there were MO weapon pools of various sizes along the banks that seemed to stretch out endlessly. There were also countless caverns that had been dug out along the banks. People frequently used MO skills to guide the water into their caves. The lower the cave was, the more MO weapon pool water there was, and the better the quality. It was also more expensive. The caverns higher up were much cheaper and it required people to get their own water. There were two kinds of MO weapon pools here. One kind was the MO weapon pools owned by the local prominent families. These MO weapon pools were not open to the outside and were private property of these families. The other kind of MO weapon pools were open to everyone. Anyone that could pay the mabe could use them. These MO weapon pools were managed by the Tang family. An old male MO came up. He was wearing the insignia of the Tang family. "Is there something you need?" "I need MO weapon pool," Zhou Mo said. "What quality?" the other asked. "The highest quality," Zhou Mo said without hesitation. The old man was slightly surprised. The highest quality MO weapon pools wasn't just very expensive to use, the water was turbulent and abundant. If one did not have enough power, they would not be able to control the power. Was this person a famous MO weapon master? Chapter 694 Weapon Layering Craftsmanship. He rented a MO weapon pool? The chief steward was slightly surprised. The trio that visited the other day had attracted his interest and he had ordered his subordinates to pay attention to their movements. Yes, they rented the Heaven Tier MO weapon pool. The subordinate had investigated thoroughly and hurried back to report. Heaven Tier. The middle-aged MO stilled. Of course he knew what this meant. Only those with some skill would dare to rent a Heaven Tier MO weapon pool. As the highest grade of MO weapon pool in Buzhou City, it was expensive to rent. The volume of water was astounding, and it was so difficult to control that almost nobody used it. Was there a MO weapon master among them? The face of the average-looking youth flashed across the mind of the middle-aged MO, but he suddenly realized that, no matter how hard he thought back, he could not remember the details of the youth's appearance. The other two females were also so ordinary that he could not remember them. He was experienced and he immediately realized the trio had probably disguised themselves. But his thoughts did not linger on the question. There were many people in these chaotic times that did not like others knowing their identities. Those with power always had their own eccentricities. What he cared about were MO weapon masters, especially powerful MO weapon masters. Any strong MO weapon master meant an endless and steady profit for a business. MO weapon masters were a kind of resource, and a powerful MO weapon master was a resource that had to be fought over. Thinking about the youth's cool and confident expression, the middle-aged Mo's heart reflexively jumped. Earth-level MO weapon. If he could really forge one. The mind of the middle-aged Mo, which he always prided himself on being unaffected by anything, was immediately disturbed. Pay close attention, I need to know all the details. Do not be afraid of spending money, understand? It was rare that the middle-aged Mo tone was so serious. This subordinate understands. In Zhou Mo's view of the three great cultivation systems, for forging, he had to admit that the Xiozha far surpassed the other two races. Seal scripts were a vast and complex field that Yao and Mo could not compare to. In comparison, while Mo matrices were their own system, they were not as well developed as seal scripts. But even so, Those in the MO territories that understood MO matrices were considered well-learned and were few in number. This was related to the attitude of MO towards their MO weapons. The forging methods of MO weapons were usually simple and crude, but there was something that the Xianxia could not rival them in: materials. The materials that were used in MO weapons were usually a part of the MO themselves, for example, a feather or nails. So while MO weapons were crudely made, but after being tempered daily and affinity granted by having come from a part of the owner's body, they were as a literal extension of their own bodies. However, those were just average MO weapons. Top-level MO weapons such as the Earth MO weapons were not so easy to make. Of the 108 Earth MO weapons, other than the extremely rare few that had been forged by the user, the great majority were forged by MO weapon masters. For MO weapon masters, forging an Earth-level MO weapon was the highest goal of their lifetime. The makers of the 12 Sky Missouri weapons were the most accomplished MO weapon masters of their era, and the best MO weapon masters in MO history. Each of their names represented a legend. In Zhuamo's view, forging Earth-level MO weapons were not a very difficult matter. He only needed the necessary materials. Even if he didn't have any, he could still accomplish it through unorthodox methods such as using weapon layering. But the creation of Sky Missouri weapons was out of the range of his abilities. There were many MO weapon masters gathered around the MO weapon pools of Buzhou City. Many people stayed here for many years to forge MO weapons. This city quarter had, long ago, developed into an area for MO weapon masters and provided a large group of residents a way to make a living, meaning it was possible to buy most common materials from these suppliers. This saved Zhuamo a lot of time. After spending 2 million MO Bei on all kinds of materials, Zhuamo had finished his preparations. The monthly rent for the Heaven-tier MO weapon pool was about 500,000 MO Bei. In other words, without even starting, Zhuamo had paid 2.5 million in Bei. The wealthy Zhuamo did not feel anything regarding the expense. 2.5 million MO Bei was just the price of an above-average general-level MO weapon. He had a whole pile of general-level MO weapons in his ring. This relatively small expenditure was not enough to make him feel pain. But while he did not feel pain, it did not mean that other people did not feel pain. The MO weapon masters around the underground Nether River quickly learned that there was someone who had come and spent 2 million on materials in one go. When they heard that this person had also rented the Heaven-tier MO weapon pool, it attracted their attention. There were two guesses about this person. Either this person was a wastrel or he was someone accomplished. Zhuamo did not have the idle time to listen to the gossip. His time was tight. The Sky Shark would only stay here for a few days. If he didn't have the weapon layering craftsmanship up his sleeve, and that the complete set of white ridge snake bones being so important to Lianer, Zhuamo definitely would not waste his time on this. But since he had started, he would naturally do his best. Waste was not a word in little MO guest's vocabulary. Lianer and Ague stood guard outside the MO weapon pool to prevent others from disturbing Zhuamo. The Heaven-tier MO weapon pool was about half a mu large. The thick and black pool water flowed in from the underground Nether River and formed a natural whirlpool in the pool. The whirlpool spun at a stunning speed like thousands of horses racing. A thick, dark, and cold presence emanated from it. Those with slightly weaker constitutions would feel cold all over and would suffer internal injuries if exposed for long periods of time. But Zhuamo's MO physique was young and domineering, so he didn't feel any discomfort at all. He made a circle around the MO weapon pool and nodded in satisfaction. The river water of the underground Nether River was pure and in attribute. There were large amounts of MO matrices set up around the Heaven-tier MO weapon pool. The vast amount of water would be able to completely wash and temper the materials. When he thought of this, Zhuamo added many new MO matrices on the foundation of the original MO matrices. The roaring whirlpool suddenly became quiet. However, the center of the whirlpool deepened and ripples spread from the center of the whirlpool. Zhuamo started to throw materials into the MO weapon pool. The black yet clear water started to become opaque. The whirlpool seemed to be able to swallow everything. The materials he threw in disappeared without a trace. When the last article was thrown into the water, the pool water actually became a dark red. The dark red whirlpool was like an enormous blood eye continuously spinning and would cause people to focus their attention on it. Zuemo closed his eyes. A general-level MO weapon appeared on his hand. This was a copper spear that flashed with a blue light that would shock people's souls. Zuemo threw the little copper spear into the dark red whirlpool. 11 general-level MO weapons were thrown in a stream into the MO weapon pool. The dark red whirlpool became even more red until it became the color of blood. When the last general-level MO weapon was thrown into the MO weapon pool, the moving whirlpool suddenly stopped. Zuemo did not dare to be careless. Multicolored lights flashed on his hands. As his fingers changed, lights shot into the MO weapon pool. If Xianxia skilled in forging saw this, they would gape at everything that was happening here. Zuemo was actually using the methods of talisman forging. Yes, Zuemo was using the methods for forging talismans. However, what he used was different from the average talisman forging methods. The lights that lit up on his hands were not spells but MO matrices. In other words, he was using methods of seal formations on MO matrices. This took 12 hours. Even a person as resilient as Zuemo showed slight exhaustion. 12 hours passed. Pop splish, pop splish. The blood-like MO weapon pool seemed to be boiling and bubbles surfaced and popped. Zuemo's attention was focused and he did not dare to relax at all. The blood-red MO weapon pool by his feet was quickly becoming orange, and he could see the MO weapons at the bottom of the pool. However, each MO weapon was now a size smaller than it had been before, while the light they gave off was even brighter than before. After the cleansing and tempering of the MO weapon pool, all of the impurities had been washed away and they were even higher in quality. The bright MO matrices flowed on the surface of these objects. Zuemo released a breath. Up until now, he had not made a mistake. There were 12 general-level MO weapons in the pool. They stood upright in the water. Zuemo did not immediately start the next step but instead sat down in the lotus position to meditate. 6 hours later, he opened his eyes. The exhaustion on his face had disappeared. His eyes flashed. He had recovered to his peak condition. He suddenly raised his hands. One of the MO weapons at the bottom of the MO weapon pool shook. An extremely minuscule ripple appeared on the smooth mirror-like surface of the pool. That MO weapon slowly melted. 1 hour later, it had turned into a pile of metal liquid with countless MO matrices flowing on the surface. Then another MO weapon flew over. This metal liquid seemed to come alive and wrapped around the incoming MO weapon. Then the bright red metal water seemed to slowly and persistently swallow the other MO weapon like a monster. An hour later, the metal water was twice as big and the MO matrices on its surface had turned brighter and even more complex. Then it started to consume another MO weapon. Time slowly flowed by like this. The pool water of the MO weapon pool slowly became clear and glittering. Any small speck of water seemed to be attracted by an invisible force. It rose up from the MO weapon pool. Then, mist started to form on top of the pool. The mist seemed to be alive and started to merge together. The combined mist ball slowly danced on top of the pool like a dragon. It became more and more nimble and its presence continued to increase. What Zuemo did not know was that an astounding transformation was happening to the underground nether river outside of his MO weapon pool. MO Weapon Master after MO Weapon Master continued to fly out of their MO weapon pools. There were numerous MO Weapon Masters that were floating above the banks of the underground nether river. They were staring in shock at the vast surface of the underground nether river. Chapter 695. The presence of Earth-level MO weapon streaks of blood-colored water rose in the vast and serene surface of the river. In a flash, the clear black color was completely overtaken by blood red. The calm surface also became restless and turbulent as though there was a terrifying monster hidden underneath the surface of the river. The waves that rose gradually became higher and higher and crashed against the shores. The MO Weapon Masters floating above the river had never seen the underground nether river like this. All of them had panicked expressions. Over there. Suddenly, a MO weapon master with keen eyes pointed at a MO weapon pool and shouted in shock. He attracted the attention of everyone else. They all turned to look in the direction I was pointing. This simultaneous inhales sounded above the river. Thick black clouds had gathered above a MO weapon pool. The underground nether river was 30 li under the ground. How could clouds form from the forging? But the thick clouds truly appeared in front of them. Boom! Suddenly, deep thunder sounded from within the clouds. The MO weapon masters above the river stared at each other. There was nothing dangerous from the sound of the thunder, but they all knew what this meant. Tales of it had been passed down from a long time ago that when a great MO weapon appeared, it would cause a worldly apparition. What was happening right now was undoubtedly, "It's the Heaven Tier Pool. It's the Heaven Tier Pool." Another MO weapon master shouted, "It's him. So it's him." The MO weapon masters all descended into noise. That mysterious person who had spent 2.5 million MO Bay and rented the Heaven Tier MO weapon pool. He had been the topic of discussion before. How could they not be shocked when they saw that the MO weapon pool was causing all this noise was the Heaven Tier pool? Boom! The roars of thunder became more frequent. It was possible to see lightning flash among the thick cloud layer. At this time, beads of blood slowly rose from the underground nether pool. Each blood bead was glowing and perfect. It was extremely stunning to see the dense layer of blood beads floating above the vast surface of the river. These blood beads were of various sizes, but all of them were perfectly round. Detail-minded MO weapon masters immediately noticed that as the beads of blood rose, the underground nether river that had become blood-colored was recovering its original color. Gradually the surface of the river recovered to its usual calm until there was no tinge of blood in the water. These blood beads. Just as everyone was both puzzled and shocked, the blood beads floating above the river suddenly flew together towards the Heaven Tier MO weapon pool. Almost at the same time, a great blinding bolt of lightning lit up the cloud and illuminated the underground nether river. An unforgettable scene fell into everyone's field of view. In this moment, they unconsciously stopped breathing. The sky full of blood beads drew out bright bloody arrows in the air. The bloody arrows were like water and carved up the air above the river. All of the blood arrows pointed towards the Heaven Tier MO weapon pool. There were so many it stole their breath. When the last blood bead entered the Heaven Tier MO weapon pool, a blood-colored pillar of light thrust through the clouds like a sword. Boom! The earth seemed to be trembling and vibrating violently. All of them gaped at this blood-colored light pierced the sky like a sword dozens of zhang thick. Heavens! The sword of light actually thrust through the rock and pierced the sky above their heads. 30 li. That pool was 30 li under the ground. The spectacular soul-shaking scene caused all of the underground nether pool to lose their power of speech and become completely silent. And at this time, Buzhou City was in a furor. The enormous blood-colored sword of light suddenly erupted from the earth and charged into the clouds. It could be seen from far away. Only someone that was blind could not see it. Gliu looked at Feng Xnz, who appeared idle and relaxed. She said coolly, "You seem to have free time. What? You didn't go out to drink today?" Feng Xnz roared with laughter. "I have to rest occasionally. Just don't forget our mission." Gliu smiled coldly. "We still haven't found Xiao Emogu yet. Don't be impatient." Feng Xnz waved his hand. "Don't be impatient?" Gliu's voice suddenly rose. Anger showed on her peerlessly beautiful face. "You're telling me not to be impatient? How many days has it been? Didn't the intelligence say that Xiao Emogu is definitely taking this route? How come we haven't encountered him until now?" Feng Xnz felt a slight headache. He knew that Gliu disliked this mission very much. He could only comfort, there is no use in being impatient. This is the MO territories, not the Yao realms. So we are just waiting like this? Gliu looked hard to Feng Xnz and said. Feng Xnz was slightly displeased but did not show it in his expression. "It would be best if you had a solution. What about those three? Weren't you suspicious of them?" Gliu changed the topic. Feng Xnz did suspect that Zhumo's trio was Xiao Mo guest group. While the appearance was different, but the two women traveled with the man and fit the descriptions. That day, Zhuo Emo had also used Yao arts. Feng Xnz knew that Xiao Emogu was skilled in Yao arts. Was a person that could beat a prison-breaking battle someone that could only be described as skilled in Yao arts? How could Feng Xnz not suspect someone that fit the description so well at such a critical time? Yet what had happened later surprised Feng Xnz. The trio first went to the Rare Artifacts Hall and then to the underground Nether River. Feng Xnz even knew that they had rented the Heaven Tier MO weapon pool and spent 2.5 million MO Bay. All the signs indicated that this person was a MO weapon master, and a skilled one at that. Feng Xnz was slightly depressed but did not show it. He is a probable suspect. His Yao art skill is very high. While he is making MO weapons, it might be a kind of disguise. Disguise? You snorted. Why does he have to disguise himself? Feng Xnz was silent. This was also something that Feng Xnz did not understand. Xiao Emogu had a great reputation in the MO territories and had 2 top-level generals in his command. The MO territories factions didn't dare to offend him, and even the Council of Elders' opinion was that Xiao Emogu's faction was one of the strongest. In a situation like this, Xiao Emogu didn't need to hide himself. No one would dare to provoke him. Just at this time, a vast and intimidating presence suddenly shot into the sky suddenly. Feng Xnz's expression changed slightly. Such a powerful presence. His mind moved and his figure disappeared. In the next moment he appeared in the sky. He saw the straight pillar of blood light that pierced the sky and inhaled suddenly. His eyes even became dazed for a brief moment. Earthma weapon. These 3 words flashed through his mind. Feng Xnz was one of the most accomplished geniuses among the younger Yao generation. He had been educated by an orthodox Yao art house and his knowledge was something that the average Yao did not have. Without any hesitation, he judged the origin of this terrifying presence. Only Earth MO weapons could have such a terrifying presence. He had once heard that Xiao Emogu had a Sky Missouri weapon, the infamous anti-dragon claw. However, that was just a rumor and he had not seen it with his own eyes. But he had experienced the presence of an Earth MO weapon before. The unique presence of an Earth MO weapon that filled the air and seemed to take over the world was suffocating. Earth MO weapon, it really was an Earth MO weapon. Had someone forged an Earth MO weapon? Feng Xnz looked in disbelief at the blood-colored pillar of light that connected earth and sky. When the bloody pillar of light erupted out of the earth, the expression of the middle-aged MO that was idly drinking tea inside the Rare Artifacts Hall changed. His body suddenly disappeared from his spot. Earth MO weapon. When he saw the bloody pillar of light that thrust into the sky, he shouted in shock. From his experience of interacting with countless MO weapons, he recognized it at first glance of the bloody pillar of light. He was thoroughly familiar with all 108 Earth MO weapons. While he had not seen them all in person, he knew the unique traits and presence of each Earth MO weapon. The strange presence given off by this thick blood-colored pillar of light was completely different than any Earth MO weapon he knew of. He had lived for 20 years in Buzhou City and was familiar with everything here. When he noticed the position of the bloody pillar of light, he immediately stilled. Wasn't it the underground Nether River there? Suddenly, he thought of that normal-looking youth with that confident expression. A thought flashed through his mind. He gaped with an expression of disbelief. Had that guy really forged an Earth-level MO weapon? As the masters of Buzhou City, the Tang family was also alerted. That bloody pillar of light was truly too eye-catching, too stunning. Almost all the experts of the Tang family flew into the air. Each person paled in shock when they saw the spectacular color of blood. Earth MO weapon. Such a presence can only be an Earth MO weapon. A Tang family elder was so excited his lips were trembling. Is there an Earth MO weapon buried under our Tang family land? Someone has forged an Earth MO weapon. Tang Chen suddenly spoke. His figure was tall and broad, but his eyes were long and narrow. His eyes were bright as he narrowed them. Forged an Earth MO weapon? All of the Tang family elders were shocked. The Tang family were not country bumpkins. The Tang family had their own Earth MO weapon, Fire Rain Meteor Hammer, ranked 41st. This great MO weapon was owned by the family patriarch Tang Chen. In Tang Chen's most famous battle, he had used the Fire Rain Meteor Hammer to defeat the famed patriarch of the Ma family, Ma Yuanqi, who had also been martial level. It had been that battle that established Tang Chen's fame. It was also that battle that had caused the great Ma family to quickly decline. They had almost died out now. No one knew better than they did the value of an Earth MO weapon. Earth MO weapons were the weapons most suited to martials. Only Earth MO weapons could completely tolerate the terrifying power of a martial. 108 Earth MO weapons existed, although this number did not referring to all the MO weapons that still existed, but from the past to present. These were all the Earth MO weapons that had ever existed. Many of the 108 had disappeared a long time ago. No one knew where they were. Right now, there were just about 20 or so that people knew of. Sky Missouri weapons were things of myths and legends, and many people even though they were fanciful tales. Earth MO weapons were the best MO weapons that almost all the MO recognized. Someone had actually created an Earth MO weapon. Everyone's eyes turned covetous. Chapter 696, Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike. The appearance of the blood-colored pillar of light lasted for an hour. Buzhou City was completely overturned. It was possible to see the eye-catching pillar of light from any corner of the city. The pillar of light that reached into the sky, and the terrifying presence it emanated all showed the power of its source. The great majority people suspected that it was a MO weapon appearing. Only the most well-informed people knew that someone had created an Earth-level MO weapon. This news was much more of a shock than the previous guess and more valuable. A MO weapon master that could forge an Earth-level MO weapon was definitely among the top MO weapon masters of this era. Every one of them had a significant position in the MO territories, and they were targets that all the factions pursued with all of their power. Earth MO weapons were in practice the top level of MO weapons. The Sky Missouri weapons might be more powerful, but that did not mean that the craftsmanship techniques were more advanced, but that there was a difference in the materials used. Take the anti-dragon claw as an example. The anti-dragon claw was made from the foreclaw of a vicious dragon. This dragon was savage and vicious, and had killed innumerable number of people. Supposedly, its foreclaw had turned red because it had been dyed in the blood of its victims. But this was not enough to make it possible to forge it into a Sky Missouri weapon. What caused it to qualify to become a Sky Missouri weapon was that in the dragon's final battle, this foreclaw had penetrated the heart of another powerful dragon. MO weapon master had coincidentally passed by and cut down this foreclaw. When they had done this, the other dragon's heart had been hanging from the foreclaw. Supposedly, this heart had been beating at that time. That had created the materials for the anti-dragon claw. Putting aside the requirement of rare materials seen once in a millennium, Earth MO weapons were the peak of MO weapons. Each Earth MO weapon forged represented the true and great skill of a MO weapon master. They were truly grandmasters. Grandmaster, this great and honored appellation. Their value was not because they might be able to forge a second Earth MO weapon. In truth, the great majority of Grandmaster were never able to forge a second Earth MO weapon. However, they were still respected and the targets of every faction. That was because they could greatly increase the skill of other MO weapon masters. This kind of improvement was decisive and fundamental to any faction. Therefore, Buzhou City was in a frenzy. Tseng Liana was standing guard by the door. She was filled with shock. That stunning blood-colored pillar of light had astounded everyone at the underground Nether River and also caused her to gape in shock. Earth MO weapon. He had actually forged an Earth MO weapon. Up until now, Tseng Lianer's expression was slightly dazed. This was an Earth MO weapon. She possessed the green carp tongue sword. She was not skilled with swords, so she had been surprised when Zhua Mo had given the green carp tongue sword to her so easily. She treasured the green carp tongue sword. Because this was an Earth MO weapon. Only 108 Earth MO weapons had ever existed in the MO territories. When she heard the quote from the Rare Artifacts Hall, she had given up. It was not because the complete set of white ridge snake bones was not worth so much, but because it was too expensive. The value of an Earth MO weapon could not be accounted for using MO Bay because there had never been an Earth MO weapon on the market. When the pillar of light had erupted, her mind turned blank. She looked with slight admiration at Ague. From beginning to end, Ague had been unusually calm. The noise hadn't caused her expression to change at all. Suddenly, Ague suddenly raised her head. Her lifeless eyes suddenly lit up with purple energy. Tseng Lianer paused, but she reacted quickly. A sharp light flashed across her eyes as she shouted, "Come out!" A figure appeared like a ghost. "Ha, the little girl is very strong." Before the other finished speaking, Agui's figure disappeared from her spot. She did not hesitate to attack. Tseng Lianer grimaced. Ague had attacked too quickly. While she was pretty, she was not a hesitant person. Her eyes flashed and she attacked as well. They had been together for some time. She knew that Ague was very sensitive to enmity. If the other had attacked immediately, she definitely had detected the other's enmity. However, she did not forget that they could not expose their identities. She did not use Shin power but MO skills. Her MO skills were not weak and had improved greatly after cultivating with Zwa MO in recent days. Her right hand raised slightly. White MO matrices appeared on her arm like tattoos. They quickly covered her entire arm. Her fingers were slightly spread as she grabbed at the other. A thin but sharp sound of the air breaking was like the hisses of a group of snakes that caused hairs to stand on end. The air rippled. White shadows lashed out like coiled white snakes. The enemy clearly was wary of these white shadows. His figure twisted strangely in the air and he managed to break free of these shadows. But before he could rejoice, he felt a strong feeling of danger. His expression changed slightly. His arms were suddenly shrouded in green light. His body twisted like a braid and his arms went behind his back. Snap! A small sound of a crash. However, it was like he was whipped. His body shook, and an astounding power pierced through the green light on his hand. Before he could react, his vision blurred and his body smashed into the ground. The instant of enormous pain caused his mind to turn blank. An unknown amount of time later, he recovered from his daze. His bones felt like they were about to fall apart and he had no strength. They hadn't killed him. This caused his mind to scatter and be filled with disbelief. The other's attack was strong and unpredictable. He hadn't even managed to survive one move before he lost the ability to fight. When he thought of this, his face flushed. He had always been proud of his own strength and had never thought. He struggled to climb out of the hole. The attack had crushed him into the ground. If his MO physique was not strong, he would have died just now. Tseng Lianer looked with interest at the other. She had stopped attacking because Ague had stepped back. This surprised her. Ague was usually as wooden as a puppet, but when she started to kill, she never had mercy. It was rare to see her not kill the enemy. Had the other's enmity disappeared? Since Ague had moved back, she was happy to do the same. She knew of Zwa Mo's intentions. It would be a troublesome matter to kill someone here. This male here was slightly interesting. Zwa Mo looked at the MO weapon on his hand with excitement. This was a long pike. More accurately, this was a double-bladed pike. The body of the pike seemed to be made from multicolored snakes winding around each other. The body of the snakes were clearly divided into different color patterns. If one counted closely, they would find 10 completely different colors and patterns on the pike. There was a spot of red in the middle of the snake heads that was extremely eye-catching. What was most unique was the 2 snake heads at the ends could become 10 different weapons. Zwa Mo had used 10 different MO weapons. These 10 transformations were the true expression of Zwa Mo's skill. The weapon layering craftsmanship could forge Earth MO weapons, but their original attributes would be erased. However, Zwa Mo had melded together some seal script and MO matrix techniques to successfully keep the unique traits of the 10 MO weapons. He decided to name this the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike. The Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike was the first Earth-level MO weapon that he had forged. There hadn't been any flaws in the entire process. It was so perfect it surpassed his expectations. The power of the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike also surpassed his predictions. Even among the Earth MO weapons, the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike was higher quality. For a moment he could not bear to sell it. But Zue Mo quickly calmed down. He shook his head and laughed. He had gained greatly in this process. He hadn't just learned the weapon layering craftsmanship, he had gained an even greater understanding of forging MO weapons. He also had many new understandings of MO matrices. In the future, he would be able to forge even more powerful MO weapons. Also, he had peerless weapons like the anti-dragon claw and the 3,000 threads of worry. He was coveting everything and may, as a result, lose everything. After thinking, he reorganized what he learned and passed the information back to Cloud Xie through Puyao. This was habit he had now developed. Whenever he had new understandings, he would organize them and share them with Golden Crow Camp. He only wanted to make his paltry contribution to Cloud Xie. After doing all this, he walked out of the MO weapon pool with the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike. When he walked out, he saw Hua Ruhai, who was furiously trying to ingratiate himself with Zheng Lianer. Zheng Lianer's eyes lit up when she saw Zue Mo. A figure flashed out of the corner of the eye. It was a Gui suddenly appearing beside Zue Mo. Zue Mo lovingly rubbed a Gui's head and said gently, "A Gui worked hard." A Gui's expression was wooden. Zue Mo turned to look at Zheng Lianer and Hua Ruhai with a questioning gaze. "This guy was sneaking around, we found him." Zheng Lianer gave a small smile. Her gaze lingered on the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike. Zue Mo handed the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike to her. When it entered her hand, Zheng Lianer uncontrollably burst out, "Earth Mo weapon." She had the green carp tongue sword and was familiar with Earth Mo weapons. When this entered her hand, she made an accurate estimate. While she knew that it would be an Earth Mo weapon from the apparition alone, but she still felt excited when she saw it. She waved it a few times and praised, "A good Mo weapon. What is its name?" Hua Ruhai looked with bright eyes at the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike in Zheng Lianer's hand. He was almost drooling. "Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike," Zue Mo said with a smile. His body relaxed. "A good name." Zheng Lianer smiled and handed the Mo weapon to Zue Mo. Zue Mo suddenly detected countless gazes gathered on him and was slightly surprised. He raised his head and saw there were many people floating in the air above the underground Nether River and the surrounding Mo weapon pools. This was... Before he could react, the entire sky exploded. These people suddenly flew madly in his direction. They fought to be first with excited expressions, shouts coming like a tsunami. "Grandmaster! Grandmaster! Grandmaster, accept me! Accept me as a student!" The scene became chaotic. Chapter 697. The domineering Tang Chen's Mo was used to scenes like this. He did not speak and only gave a small smile. A short time later, the noisy crowd quickly quieted. The Mo weapon masters looked in reverence and respect at Zue Mo. At this time, silence was more effective than speech. But he still felt a small headache. He would only stay in Buzhou City for a short while, and forging the Sky Snake 10 manifestation peak was just to trade for the White Ridge snake bones for Zheng Lianer. He hadn't thought that forging an Earth Mo weapon would create such a ruckus. The reason that he had changed his appearance was because he did not want to draw attention to himself, and he could reach Nether Springs Jie as fast as possible. It would not be easy to leave after making such a spectacle. These Mo weapon masters that were looking him with fear and reverence were just a small problem. It would not be so easy to get rid of the prestigious families of Buzhou City. Zue Mo had experienced the conduct of the prestigious families before. If he revealed his identity, the other would not dare to do anything, but that way his tracks would be exposed. What would occur would be endless trouble. It was not a secret that he had Shen power. If people had doubted that Shen power existed before, the Mo gods that had killed the Shen Kong Temple core had displayed the great force of Shen power. Being in possession of a great treasure was a crime. Zue Mo knew this. The trio was not weak. If they secretly moved, they would not encounter any great trouble. The only strong enemies they would likely encounter would be lone experts. If their tracks were exposed, there would be prestigious clans that would use all of the power at this disposal to try to get the Shun power inheritance from him. It definitely would not be a good idea to reveal his identity. Calming down, Zhuo Mo's mind started to turn furiously. He pushed his voice low to say to Tseng Liana, "How many people know of the use of the White Ridge snake bones?" Tseng Liana stilled, but she was smart and immediately understood what Zhuo Mo meant. She replied in an imperceptible voice, "Few. Even in the clan, only my father and I know." Zhuo Mo was slightly relieved. Their only possible flaw was the White Ridge snake bones. If other people knew the use of the White Ridge snake bones for the White Fang snake Mo, it would be easy to suspect their identities. It was not a secret that he had a female companion that was a White Fang snake Mo. He could only deal with the events as they came. Zhuo Mo decided as he smiled as usual. Suddenly, the crowd behind shifted. "Congratulations. Congratulations. I had not thought that Honored Sir would actually forge an Earth-level MO weapon." The middle-aged MO had a joyous expression and there was a group of guards behind him. Zhuo Mo hadn't expected the chief steward of the Rare Artifacts Hall to come directly to the MO weapon pool. He was slightly surprised, but his expression did not change. He said coolly, "All due to Sir's good luck, everything proceeded smoothly. This Earth MO weapon is called the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike. It can turn into 10 different MO weapons, each with their own abilities." Finishing, he took out the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike and performed some of the transformations. The MO weapon masters in the surroundings had never seen a true Earth-level MO weapon before. They stretched out their necks, their eyes wide in fear they would miss a single detail. When they saw the 10 transformations of the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike, they gave gasps of shock. The middle-aged Mo's gaze was burning hot as he started at the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Spear in Zhuo Mo's hand. He wanted to take it immediately. As the main steward of Rare Artifacts Hall, he had better judgment than normal people. He had also touched a true Earth MO weapon before. With just a glance, he realized that this Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike was better than the Earth MO weapon he had touched in the past. His gaze became even hotter. However, he was a smart person. He said with a smile, "I have brought the White Ridge snake bones." According to Little Mo Guess personality, he would not be himself if he did not take the chance to profit enormously. However, this time, he was in a hurry to leave, so he did not haggle. He nodded. "It is yours." The joy on the middle-aged Mo's face increased. The complete set of White Ridge snake bones appeared in front of Zhuo Mo's. Sighs of shock rose in the surroundings again. It was extremely rare to see such a perfect set of White Ridge snake bones. "Please wait." A voice suddenly interrupted. It was Hua Ruhai. The urgency on his face had disappeared and was replaced by calmness. "This one is Hua Ruhai of North Bay's Hua family. I wish to purchase this Earth MO weapon." Before he finished speaking, Zhuo Mo grabbed the White Ridge snake bones and shoved the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike into the hand of the middle-aged Mo. Hua Ruhai's expression froze on his face. Was something wrong with this person's hurt? Did he not understand this was chance to raise the price? Hua Ruhai's blood rushed to his head and he glared angrily at Zhuo Mo. Zhuo Mo ignored him. With the White Ridge snake bones in his hand, he gave a look to Tseng Lianer. He grabbed a Gui's hand and quickly proceeded to leave. The middle-aged Mo was still immersed in the joy of obtaining the Earth-level Mo weapon and did not notice the actions of the trio. "Valued guests, you leave in such a hurry. My Tang family has not treated you properly and slighted such valued guests. This is our crime. This one is Tang Qin and ask for forgiveness from you." A deep and pleasant voice echoed in everyone's ears. The noisy scene suddenly became silent. Everyone had speculated that the Tang family would not stop and watch with a MO weapon Grandmaster represent, but when Tang Chen asked for forgiveness, it caused everyone to be speechless. Then sound spread in a wave. Tang Chen was the present patriarch of the Tang family. He rarely was seen in public. They hadn't thought that he would personally come. This really was giving a great honor to this Grandmaster. Zhuo Mo's expression was the same, but he grimaced. Now it would not be easy to leave. The other was polite in speech, but his position perfectly blocked off their path. Zhuo stopped walking and then casually bowed. He said, "I do not dare to accept this. We have matters to attend to and are in a hurry to travel. Mr. Tang, please forgive us." Tang Chen smiled when he heard this. He drawled, "Grandmaster is too polite. Please tell us what the matter is. The Tang family will be honored to serve Grandmaster. It is the good fortunate of Buzhou City that Grandmaster has come here. Please, Grandmaster, stay for a few days, and let us act as good hosts." As expected, a difficult person. Zhuo cursed this Tang Chen a few hundred times. He wanted to take out little Mo treasure cup and let it go. It seemed from Tang Chen's posture that Zhuo definitely would not be able to leave today. The other most likely would force them to stay. Zhuo's mind moved rapidly and decided to pretend to agree. Later, he would find a chance to sneak away. Having decided this, he pretended to be reluctant and replied, "Then we will disturb Patriarch Tang for a few days." Tang Chen gave a satisfied smile. "Grandmaster, please." Tang Chen's gaze swept across the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike in the hand of the rare artifact Hall Chief Steward. He praised, "A good Earth Mo weapon." The middle-aged Mo did not avoid Tang Chen's gaze. He smiled calmly and said, "The Mo weapon is good, the Grandmaster is even better." Tang Chen naturally understood the other's double meaning but pretended not to hear it. He smiled slightly and said, "The Tang family coincidentally needs an Earth Mo weapon. Please, state a price." His tone was cool but an aura of dominance formed. The middle-aged was not frightened and said slyly, "This one does not dare to overstep this one's authority. If Darren wants to ask about the price, this one will report to the owner." "You're pretty good." Tang Chen turned and left after saying this. Zhuo showed a thoughtful expression. It seemed that the support behind this rare artifact's haul wasn't weak. The trio were set up in one compound. This was a very large compound in a great environment. It had all the equipment needed and there were more than hundreds of servants. There was only the trio living in this enormous compound. The compound was heavily guarded on the outside. There were more than 20 of the Tang family elite general level and above acting as guards and sentries. There are also many Mo matrices set up in the surroundings. It was impossible to set up seal formations like transportation formations. This caused Zhuo to grimace. The other was clearly more experienced. After inviting them to the Tang family, they were put under house arrest. The present situation was no different than house arrest even though the other did not restrict their movement. Zhuo had also learned the domineering style of this Tang family patriarch. It was impossible to sneak away without being detected while under such heavy guard. If they tried to force their way, then all of their secrets would be exposed and the Tang family would pay any price to keep them here. There was great apology and guilt on Tseng Lianer's face. If it wasn't for the White Ridge snake bones. Zhuo shook his head and interrupted her. "This isn't your fault. Who would think that the Earth-level Mo weapon would cause such a great disturbance?" Zhuo looked at Ague and felt urgency. If they were trapped here, when would they be able to reach Nether Springs Jia? At this time, his mind suddenly moved. He thought of a great idea. He is going to forge Earth Mo weapons? Tang Chen asked gravely. He said that he wants to forge a new Earth Mo weapon. The subordinate's tone was filled with joyful surprise. Earth Mo weapon? Tang Chen's expression changed but then he frowned. He naturally knew of the difficulty in forging an Earth Mo weapon. This Grandmaster had just finished forging an Earth Mo weapon and now wanted to forge a second one. He felt incredulous at this. Any Earth Mo weapon could be said to be the masterpiece of a Mo weapon master's life. The great majority of Mo weapon grandmasters only ever forged one Earth Mo weapon and those that had forged two could be counted on the fingers. He had never heard of one that had forged three. Tang Chen had not captured Zhuo forcibly because of the Earth Mo weapon but was in hope that he would be willing to help take the role of the teacher for the Mo weapon camp. Buzhou City was rich in resources, but the skill level of the Mo weapon masters was not high. If the level of these Mo weapon masters could be increased, the resources could be turned into an endless flow of fine Mo weapons. the Tang family's power would increase another level in a short period of time. Had he gotten new ideas from forging the Earth Mo weapon last time? While he did not believe that Zhuo Mo could forge a second Earth Mo weapon, Tang Cheng was naturally happy for Zhuo Mo to throw himself into the forging of Mo weapons. And cooperate fully with him, Tang Chen said without hesitation. Satisfy his needs to the best of our abilities. Yes. The subordinate acknowledges. However, his expression turned strange. But Grandmaster had a strange request. Strange request. Tang Chen stilled. Chapter 698, The Unexpected Guest. Buzhou City, Tangwen Hall. This was Buzhou City's grandest banquet in the past few years. It was popular and filled with people. There were many beauties, the fragrance of wine spread around the air, and those that were conversing would exchange greetings with smiles. Anyone of slight fame in and around Buzhou City had received an invitation from the Tang family. There were famed experts from surrounding towns that had rushed over. Other than the Tang family's unrivaled power in this area, many people had come for another person, Grandmaster Xiao Yunhai I. It was not strange for a Grandmaster that had just forged an Earth-level Mo weapon to be pursued to this degree. Then they heard that it had been Grandmaster Xiao Yunhai's request to hold this banquet. Many people had thoughts about the situation. While the Tang family had forcefully stolen Grandmaster away, many people still desired to meet him and form friendly relationships, especially the experts that were strong and lacked Mo weapons. They were like flies that smelt meat and all ran over. Feng Xinzi had a sunny smile on his face. He had refused the advances of countless beautiful young female Mo. He was holding a cup of wine as he sat beside Ji Liyu. You were wrong. Ji Liyu's tone was slightly mocking. He's the new Mo weapon grandmaster. Feng Xinzi shrugged his shoulders. Maybe Xiao Mogu also knows to forge Mo weapon / while he teased this, inside he did not believe his own words. Xiao Mogu was a genius. Even Feng Xinzi, who was called a genius by others, had to admit the other's astounding talent. But even the most talented person could not be good in all areas. Mo weapon creation was a profound and cryptic field. In order to have accomplishments in this area, one needed to accumulate skill and experience. The former was related to talent, and the latter to time. Also, don't you feel it is strange? A Mo weapon master that can make an Earth Mo weapon should have at least some fame and reputation before this, but no one has heard of his name before? Feng Xinzi looked at Zhuo Mo in the distance and said to himself, there are many people who leap into fame from obscurity. There is nothing strange about that. Ji Liyu's tone was dismissive. Maybe. Feng Xinzi did not continue on the topic. One person forced their way over and said enthusiastically, I am so fortunate to encounter such a beautiful miss today. Miss who is so beautiful that my heart has almost stopped beating. Can you tell me your name? Ji Liyu felt slight disdain, but she did not snow it in her expression. She smiled brightly. Shouldn't you introduce yourself first before asking for someone's name? Ji Liyu was devastatingly beautiful to start with. When she did not smile, she was the brightest jewel at the banquet. When she smiled, the entire banquet hall seemed to light up. The nearby guests were dumbstruck. The young person who stepped forward to speak with her was also stunned. After a while, he recovered. His expression was intoxicated. He appeared as though he would be willing to die if Ji Liyu told him to do so. Oh, I should die for this. I was so impolite. Heavens, this is unforgivable. Please forgive my rudeness. I am Hua Ruhai from the South Bay's Hua family. It is a little place, a little place. Hua Ruhai smiled fawningly. Shocked inhales sounded in the surroundings. South Bay Hua family was a faction that rivaled the Tang family. I am very happy to meet you, Mr. Hua Ruhai. I am Ji Liyu of the Yao. Ji Liyu's smile blossomed and drew the eyes of the males present. Happy, truly happy. Hua Ruhai was so excited he could not speak rationally. Has Mr. Hua Ruhai also come for Grandmaster? Ji Liyu asked curiously. Hua Ruhai nodded repeatedly. Yes, Yes, I was coincidentally around the MO weapon pool when Grandmaster completed forging the MO weapon. I saw with my own eyes the worldly apparition when the Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike was created. Sky Snake 10 Manifestation Pike? Yes, it is an outstanding Earth MO weapon and can change into 10 different MO weapons. It is the first time I have seen such a wondrous Earth MO weapon. It is a pity it ended up in the hands of Rare Artifacts Hall. It will not be easy to buy it from them. Hua Ruhai shook his head and said with regret. Ji Liu suddenly said, Grandmaster is really young. Are all MO weapon masters so young? Hua Ruhai smiled and said, Actually, I was stunned when I met the Grandmaster for the first time. I hadn't expected him to be about the same age as me. However, people at the Grandmaster level are probably not the same as us mere mortals. That is true. Ji Liu smiled faintly. Her gaze turned to the MO weapon placed at the center of the large hall. That is the Sky Snake 10 Manifestations Pike? Hua Ruhai looked with intoxication at the Sky Snake 10 Manifestations Pike and murmured, Perfect! It is absolutely perfect! I haven't never heard of this level of craftsmanship. It is great! Ji Liu stared at the Sky Snake 10 Manifestations Pike. An intimidating yet almost imperceptible presence emanated from the pike and shrouded the entire hall. It would occasionally cause sighs of awe. It really is a perfect masterpiece, the chief steward of Rare Artifacts Hall praised. Many thanks to you for your support. Zuo offered his thanks to the other. He had sold the Sky Snake 10 Manifestations Pike to the Rare Artifacts Hall already. They had only brought it out for display because it was Zuo's request. It is nothing, the middle-aged Mo smiled and said. Then he said subtly, no matter the occasion, Rare Artifacts Hall is a friend of Grandmaster. He had felt great shock when he had received Zuo's request, but he quickly made his decision. While he did not know what the Grandmaster's intentions were, it was undoubtedly the best choice to build a good relationship with the other. Zuo raised the wine cup in his hand and toasted the other. Please. Please. The middle-aged Mo responded with a raise of his glass in satisfaction. It was not common to have a Grandmaster owe you a favor. There was an imperceptible smile on Tang Chen's face. Suddenly, a servant said a few words in a low voice by his ear, and he nodded. He suddenly stood and raised both of his hands. He said in a loud voice, Everyone. The hall immediately quieted down. All gazes turned to focus on Tang Chen. Tang Chen had absolute authority in Buzhou City. Just a few of his words could have great effects on Buzhou City. Tang Chen had a big smile. Today is really a good day, with friends filling the seats and honored guests that have come. Just as he was speaking, a procession walked in from the door to the hall. The one leading the way was a youth with a faint smile on his face. His handsome face was filled with confidence as he walked with his head high at the front. The crowd unconsciously made way for him. Uncle Tang. The youth bowed towards Tang Chen. Tang Chen laughed and said, Come here, let Uncle have a look at you. Heroes really come from youth. I really admire a D for having such a son. A D? Low discussion rose in the crowd. Everyone was speculating who this a D was. Father frequently mentions you, but there has been many matters. He feels very guilty for being unable to visit Uncle Tang these years, Gongzi she said respectfully. A reminiscing expression came onto Tang Chen's face. He said emotionally, the years have passed so quickly. He then laughed. It is not good to be too emotional on such a good day. Finishing, he turned to face the hall with a hand on the youth. He said in a loud voice, Everyone, let me introduce you. This is Marshal Di's son, and my nephew Shi. The crowd exploded. Everyone knew who Marshal D was. Oh, of course this meant every other than Zuo. Marshal D was much more famous than Tang Chen and was one of the most famous marshals in the Mo territories. Many people had uncertain expressions. While Tang Chen's authority in Buzhou City was unrivaled, the Tang family was usually low-key and seemed content to be in their area without any ambitions to vie for the world. Due to this, many people thought of the Tang family as just a strong local faction. However, Marshal D was one of the competitors fighting for domination of the world and one of the strongest marshals. Because of the difference in status of the families, many people were surprised the son of Marshal D was so respectful towards Tang Qin. To even bow like a junior suggested that the two marshals had a close relationship. Zai's arrival caused the entire banquet to have a turbulent underflow. Many people thought inside that they needed to reassess the strength of the Tang family. This included the Ji family. In the corner, Aheng's eyes flashed and he was uncertain. The Tang family had been a faction that the Ji family had been trying to form relations with for a long time. The Ji family had even hoped that they could use a marriage to ally the two families together. He immediately detected something unusual nearby when Marshal Di's son Shi had arrived. The young master of the Ji family looked with hate and viciousness at Zhuo Mo. Refocusing, Aheng noticed the expression of his young master and frowned inwardly. The newly arrived Gongzi Shi appeared handsome and accomplished. His family's young master in comparison was not acceptable to be seen in public. Aheng shook his head inside. That Xiao Yunhai was an honored guest of the Tang family now. They did not have any more chances to act. Not speaking of how they wanted to form an alliance with the Tang family, even if they did not care about how the Tang family felt, they could not act against a valued guest of the Tang family while in Buzhou City. He reminded, "Young master, you cannot be rash." "So this will be the end of it?" The young master gritted his teeth and his voice seemed to bellow out from his chest. Aheng said coolly, "Master will not be happy if you offend the Tang family." The Ji family young master's face paled. When he thought of his father's anger, a chill rose from the bottom of his feet. All of his anger immediately disappeared. After Aheng reminded him of this, he didn't look at his young master again but focused on Gongzi Shi. He decided to stay a while longer and find out why Gongzi Shi had suddenly come to Buzhou City. The Tang family was low-key but their strength could not be underestimated. They would be of great aid to any family they allied with. Aheng knew that the horizontal Jie's Ji family did not have as much influence compared to Marshal D. However, he hadn't expected that Tang Qin had concealed this relationship so deeply. They had investigated for so long and hadn't even heard a hint of it. The Ji family had started to try to ally with the Tang family from a very long time ago. Tang Qin's attitude had always been ambiguous. So this was the reason behind it. No matter what, he could not let the Tang family and Marshal D form an alliance. A cold light flashed across Aheng's eyes. With the arrival of the new guests, no one noticed the two people from the Ji family in the corner. Tang Chen's gaze flashed across Gongzi Zai's retinue. When his gaze landed on Li Xiener, he was slightly surprised. However, he did not change expression and brought Gongzi Shi in front of Zuemon's virtuous nephew. "Come, this is Grandmaster Xiao Yunhai. Grandmaster has just forged an Earth Mo weapon, the Sky Snake 10 Manifestations Pike. It is extraordinarily powerful." At this time, the corner of Zuemo's eye imperceptibly twitched. 1. This is another pun based on similar sounds and different characters. Yunhai as in Cloud Sea, and Xiao being the surname. 2. The naming convention here seems to follow that of ancient China. Gongzi means the son of a lord, which later turned to mean gentleman. So Shi is the name, and Gongzi is like a honorific. Chapter 699, Zuemo's goal. His gaze unconsciously moved and swept across Gongzi Zai's group. His gaze suddenly stopped on a female. For some unknown reason, Zuemo had an eerie sense of familiarity. This female? Zuemo dared to guarantee that he had definitely never seen this female before. He wasn't able to identify anything familiar about her. This included her appearance, her speech, and presence. They were all very unfamiliar and Zuemo was sure that he had never seen her before. But that eerie sense of familiarity haunted his mind and could not be swept away. It really was strange. Zuemo suppressed the strange feeling he had. His expression was normal as he gave a small smile and exchanged greetings with Gongzi Shi. "I'm very happy to meet you." Gongzi Shi also had a smile. "On the way here, I heard that Grandmaster had forged an Earth Mo weapon. She itches to see it and has traveled day and night." This journey was not a waste after meeting Grandmaster. Tang Chen pretended to be angry. So virtuous nephew has not come to see this old man. This old man thought too highly of himself. The people around laughed when they heard this. Tang Chen also had a small smile as he said, "You and Grandmaster are of similar age, and must be able to converse better. Virtuous nephew, you should ask for guidance from Grandmaster, you will definitely benefit." "Uncle is right, Gongzi," she said respectfully. Zuemo smiled. Patriarch Tang is too complimentary. He felt strange. This Tang Chen seemed to treat Gongzi Shi like his own nephew. The relationship between the two families was not simple. Gongzi's eyes gaze turned to the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike in the middle of the large hall. He couldn't resist saying, "This is Grandmaster's new work?" "This is called the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike." The middle-aged Mo elegantly took over. "Does Master Shi want to try?" "I can." She showed joy. "Of course." The middle-aged Mo made an ushering motion. "Our hall received the favor of Grandmaster and this Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike. Master can do as you please." Even a blind person could see that the middle-aged Mo was showing goodwill to Gongzi Shi. Gongzi's eyes expression was excited and he was desiring to try. Li Xianer secretly examined Zuemo. She was unusually sensitive. Zuemo had done his best to make his gaze appear casual, but Li Xianer still detected Zuemo's attention focused on her. Her appearance had been disguised. While she still looked pretty, it was several levels below her true appearance. Which of the servants around Gongzi Shi were not beautiful due to his position? Theoretically, she should be very nondescript and mediocre among the group. She hadn't thought that Tang Chen and Xiao Yunhai would notice her. However, she was very curious about Xiao Yunhai. It was not common to see such a young Mo weapon grandmaster. Being from Tianhuan, Li Xianer had seen many kinds of geniuses, but there were only just a rare few that were so accomplished at such an age. As though he noticed her gaze, the young grandmaster gave a small smile at her. This guy was slightly strange. Li Xianer thought inside. Qinghua Shui looked closely at Zuemo within the crowd. Her eyes were as bright as stars and she was struggling to keep her calm. It was him. Yes, it was him. Qinghua Shui could not suppress the excitement inside. Almost at first glance, she had recognized Zuemo. While the appearance and the name were unfamiliar, Qinghua Shui's eyes had not missed his familiar patterns of speech and movement. She was too familiar with Xiao Emogu. She hadn't just fought against him, she had collected almost all the mirages on the market concerning him. This was him. Xiao Emogu. The gathering that would have normally found unpleasant and noisy was so beautiful right now. Qinghua Shui's eyes did not move away one bit. "What are you looking at?" one of her fellows poked her. Her friend was called Ning Shiner. She was the most beautiful female of the cadet branch of the Ning family, and due to this, she had been selected. Qinghua Shui seemed to wake up. Her face was aflame. "Oh, you like Xiao Yunhai?" Ning Shiner teased her. While he doesn't look handsome, his future is unlimited as he was able to become a grandmaster at such a young age. If you can get him, the Qinghua family probably would be overjoyed. Qinghua Shui quickly recovered her calm. She slanted a look at Ning Shiner and said pointedly, "Weren't you pining after Xiao Emogu?" "Xiao Emogu?" Ning Shiner said self-mockingly. "I want him. However, with the Yao's greatest beauty standing at the front, we can just rest our hearts and act as secondary characters." The words were tinged with jealousy and some disappointment. Qinghua Shui was silent. She could understand Ning Xiner's feelings. Of the group of people that had come, there was no one other than her that had been willing. In front of Ji Liu, all of them lost in comparison. Everyone felt that if Xiao Emogu was going to fall in love, it would be with Ji Liu. They were from the cadet branches of their families, but they had many suitors, including sons of main branches. Who was willing to travel thousands of miles to act as accompaniment? "I feel that Xiao Emogu might not fall in love with Miss Ji," Qinghua Shui suddenly said. "Maybe." Ning Shiner twisted her mouth. "If he doesn't fall in love with the most beautiful woman, then there is no hope for us." Qinghua Shui was silent. Ning Shiner tilted her head and suddenly became excited. "This Xiao Yunhai is a good target. I feel that the higher-ups will definitely agree to recruit a MO weapon master of such potential on our side. Nice. That you can go try. Qinhua Shui said sardonically. No, he isn't handsome enough. Ning Shiner pouted. But that Gongzi Shi is both generous and has presence. His family background is also very good. Qinghua Shui smiled upon hearing this. At this time, Xiao Yunhai suddenly spoke up. Everyone. The entire place quieted. People looked over curiously. Everyone present was filled with curiosity about this newly titled MO Weapon Grandmaster, especially since he was so young. Xiao Yunhai had a small smile on his face without any timidity. His voice was clear and loud. First, I would like to thank Patriarch Tang for agreeing to my unreasonable request and hosting such a grand banquet for me. I also must thank the Rare Artifact Hall for their support with today's event. I won't waste words. This time, I have invited everyone because I have something to ask. Grandmaster, please say. If our Rare Artifact Hall can do it, we will not refuse. There was an elegant smile on the middle-aged Mo's face. His voice was not loud but could be heard over the entire hall. Displeasure flashed across Tang Chen's eyes. He was very displeased that Rare Artifacts Hall had taken this opportunity before him. He knew that this was Xiao Yunhai's retaliation for being forced to come to the Tang family. Grandmasters, it was normal for them to have a temper. The smile on his face remained the same. Grandmaster, please say it. The Tang family is not some prestigious family, but there are not many things that we cannot do. His words were said indifferently, but the dominance showed. The other people had planned on saying a few words but then perceptively closed their mouths. The entire place was unusually silent. Zuo was not affected at all. He looked around solemnly. This one needs something called the Reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass. One plant can be traded for an Earth MO weapon. The crowd exploded. Someone couldn't resist asking, Grandmaster, you are serious? Zuo said without hesitation. Yes. Is the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike for trade? Someone else couldn't resist asking. Wasn't it sold to the Rare Artifacts Hall? The middle-aged Mo also had a surprised expression. He had expected that Xiao Yunhai would have a goal, but he had not expected that to be publicly announcing that he was buying Reversal Shadow Soul Silkgrass. The price he gave was also an Earth MO weapon. He knew of the Reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass. However, it was produced in Nether Springia. While the production of it was not high, it was not so rare. This price was one that no one would be able to resist. He immediately decided that he would send an order to search for Reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass the moment he left the venue. When he heard people ask about the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike, his reaction was quick. Rare Artifacts Hall is willing to put the Sky Snake 10 manifestation pike as a guarantee. An Earth MO weapon was valuable, but it was definitely not a loss to use an Earth MO weapon to trade for the friendship of a Grandmaster. Zuo was very surprised. He nodded at the middle-aged Mo with a friendly gaze. The middle-aged Mo immediately felt good, especially when he noticed that Tang Chen beside him had a black face. He was proud of how beautiful his move had been. Tang Chen was too overbearing in his action. Was something wrong with this person's brains to force a Grandmaster of unlimited potential? The middle-aged Mo looked down on this. But he stilled at Xiao Yunhai's next words. Thanks for Rare Artifact Hall's support, but I have already sold this MO weapon to Rare Artifact Hall. This belongs to Rare Artifacts Hall. How can this one trade using that? Zuomo's expression was confident as he looked around. His voice was not loud, but it stunned the entire place. Each word was filled with power. 3 days later, I will start to forge another Earth MO weapon. Zuomo's expression was determined. If my luck is good, and I forge an Earth MO weapon, I will leave the article at Rare Artifact Hall. Anyone can trade for this MO weapon with a Reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass. I will trouble your hall for this. The middle-aged Mo's mouth was open, his expression stunned. He quickly reacted and nodded hurriedly. No problem, no problem. Tang Chen's expression was dark. He had been completely unprepared for the bomb that Xiao Yunhai had thrown out. But he quickly recovered. The corners of his mouth were smiling and full of disdain. As expected, this was the rashness of a young person. He had a little bit of accomplishment and he didn't know his own limit anymore. Did he really think that he could achieve anything? However, this was beneficial for the Tang family. He wanted to see how Xiao Yunhai would clean up this mess when he could not forge an Earth MO weapon. At Buzhou City, no one except the Tang family could help him. Not even Rare Artifacts Hall. Tang Chen's gaze was dark and cold. Everyone was stunned where they stood. Zhuo Mo's words had caused them to lose the ability of speech. Forge an Earth MO weapon? What joke was this? What did he think an Earth MO weapon was? He could make one whenever he felt like it? Xiao Yunhai was crazy. Chapter 700 Old and Cunning an Earth MO Weapon. Xiao Yunhai. This was the hottest topic of the moment. All of the MO territories were paying attention to the news. Theoretically, while Earth MO weapons were rare and valuable, it was not enough to create such a great wave. But the extravagant promise that Xiao Yunhai had thrown out was too astounding. They did not know Xiao Yunhai's exact age, but he definitely was among the ranks of the youngest MO weapon grandmasters. His future could be said to be unlimited. Yet a MO weapon grandmaster of such potential had suddenly stated that he would trade an Earth MO weapon for a reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass. The entire MO territories were scorched by the bomb. Some were dismissive and snorted. The majority of people considered this a joke, and were simply watching the dubious spectacle. While Shen power was starting to appear in their visions, and MO skills were not considered the top tier of the powers now, Earth MO weapons were still one of the strongest weapons. Their limited number, the difficulty of creating them, the great power they contained, were all reasons it was valuable. Before Xiao Yunhai, no MO weapon grandmaster dared to announce that he would definitely forge another Earth MO weapon. In the history of the MO, the number of Earth MO weapons never surpassed 200 articles. But someone had suddenly ran out and stated that he was able to forge Earth MO weapons again. Even if he was a MO weapon master that had just become a grandmaster, it caused shock among the MO. The reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass was valuable, but its value could not rival Earth MO weapons. Its rarity was just because it was produced in Nether Spring Jia, the location was far and it was difficult to harvest. But this wasn't a problem to those prestigious families and large businesses that had far-reaching influence. However, the great majority of people only maintained the attitude of spectators. They didn't believe at all that Xiao Yunhai would be able to forge another Earth MO weapon. However, a small number of factions started to search for reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass with the aim of establishing friendly relations with the Grandmaster. They didn't have any hopes about the Earth MO weapon. In their view, while the reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass was valuable, it was still profitable if one used it to create relations with a MO weapon grandmaster. Events like this were undoubted ones that people liked to see and hear about. People were all waiting to see the young person who had just become a grandmaster and didn't know his own limits make a joke of himself. Some even started to take bets on whether Xiao Yunhai could forge a new Earth MO weapon. It had been so long since there had been such an entertaining event. The people of the MO territories were extremely interested. Such an interesting even. In the study, Virtuous Nephew, what do you think? Tang Chen asked Gong Zishi in interest. Gong Zishi had a thoughtful expression. He grimaced and shook his head. This nephew doesn't know. This Xiao Yunhai is too hard to predict. He actually promised this in public. It really? He didn't know how to describe it. Tang Chen gave a smile. Virtuous nephew, do not be thrown by this. He must have disliked the treatment he received in these days and is not willing to stay in the Tang family. He purposefully acted in public to attract people's gazes. But if he doesn't have any confidence, would he dare to say this? Gong Zizai's expression was puzzled. It is a terrible move made in panic, Tang Chen said coolly. Young people are always rash. This event is beneficial for us. This boy doesn't know his limits, but he does have some true skill. If we are able to use him, he would be of great benefit. Uncle is right, Gong Zishi nodded and said. Tang Chen did not linger on this subject and changed the topic. I noticed that some of the people in your group do not look like Mo. Seeing the wry expression on Tang Chen's face, Gongzi she flushed slightly and reported the truth. Uncle may not know. They are the envoys from Tianhuan. Tang Chen's expression changed. Your father plans to ally with Tianhuan? Yes. Gongzi she nodded and said. Tang Chen was silently for a moment before speaking. It is good for you two families to ally together based on Tianhuan's power. One should always establish relations with those far away and attack those close by. Your two families do not have any conflicts of interest, and it is beneficial for both sides for you to help each other in secret. However, the two sides are far from each other. If there is alliance, it must be marriage. As he spoke, Tang Chen smiled. That female's identity must not be simple. Gongzi she said, she is the granddaughter of Tianhuan's sect leader. Tang Chen nodded. The families are matched in status. I see that you seem to like her. I will send a letter to your father and speak of this matter on your behalf. Gongzi she was overjoyed and made a deep bow. Nephew thanks uncle. Tang Chen held Gongzi she up. You father and his relationship was forged through life and death experiences. I think of you as my own nephew. There is no need for these courtesies. Then his tone became stern. There is something you need to remind your father. Gongzi she hurriedly said, Uncle, please speak. After a moment of silence, Tang Chen said gravely, your father must already know about the Emotion Temple. I see that your father is busy organizing his faction. If this was the past, this is the right choice, but it is not appropriate now. Gongzi she had a pondering expression. Uncle means to pay more attention to Shen power? Yes. Tang Chen nodded. You have also seen the power of Shen power. This is a power even stronger than Mo's skill, Ling power, and Yao arts. One Nemo god was enough to destroy all of Xian Kong Temple's elder core. This kind of strategic power is enough to change the state of world. Do you know how many military core Xian Kong Temple's elder core is equal to? Without giving Gongzi she the time to think, Tang Chen continued to speak. You cannot fall behind at this time. The person who walks at the front in this field has the advantage. The Emotion Temple, the greatest enemy of everyone. Gongzi she was not a wastrel. While he was a rake, he understood matters of war. He agreed with Tang Chen, but he grimaced. It is not that father doesn't want, but he has not been able to get a foot in the door. Nephew knows that father has already started to build a Shen temple, but the effect is not very good. The Emotion Temple had hid and developed for 200 years. Of course it is not simple, Tang Chen said. You may want to find a breakthrough in another place. Gongzi she was intelligence. After a moment of thought, he understood. Uncle speaks of Xiao Emogu? Yes. Tang Chen praised. Xiao Emo guest trio all have Shen power inheritances. While they are not weak, they are lacking in comparison to the Emotion Temple. If we gather our power, it is very likely we will gain what we desire. Xiao Emogu is a ghost and there is no trace of him now. Gongzi she looked at Tang Chen. When he noticed the imperceptible smile at the corner of Tang Chen's mouth, his body trembled, unless Tang Chen had a proud expression. I have been keeping an eye on Xiao Emogu all this time. A while ago, the trio suddenly disappeared. I went to Yanmen Ocean to beg Great Shaman Sang Mingyu to divine. The Great Shaman owed me a favor in the past, and used 5 years of his life force to divine. He learned that the trio is near Buzhou City. Gongzi's eyes immediately lit up. Near Buzhou City? Yes, at the start, I suspected Xiao Yunhai was Xiao Emogu. He has 2 female servants with fit with the description of Xiao Emogu. However, I had never heard that Xiao Emogu knows how to forge Mo weapons, much less Earth Mo weapons. I purposefully was domineering in my conduct. One reason was to test him. But from his response, he doesn't seem to be the one. Gongzi she listened carefully in fear he would miss a detail. He thought back to Xiao Yunhai's actions and he agreed with uncle's judgment. That Xiao Yunhai didn't have the presence of a hero. While he was also powerful, his actions were rash. He was far from the uncanny Xiao Emogu. Tang Chen's gaze was deep. While he isn't Xiao Emogu, he is suitable to be bait. I heard that the anti-dragon claw Xiao Emogu obtained seemed to be heavily damaged. Xiao Yunhai is a MO weapon grandmaster and one of the most likely to be able to fix the anti-dragon claw. If Xiao Mogu knows of this, he definitely would not miss this chance. I had been thinking of how to spread the news. I hadn't expected Xiao Yunhai to attract so much attention and help us. Gongzi, she had an admiring expression. No wonder Uncle is supporting Xiao Yunhai. Uncle is wise and cunning. You really are the oriole behind the mantis stalking the cicada. Tang Chen's expression was normal. We only need to focus on Xiao Yunhai and wait. However, when Xiao Mogu shows up, we need enough experts in order to trap him. Gongzi, she knew this was a rare opportunity and nodded without hesitation. Uncle, don't worry. I will send a message right now. Uncle Qin and Uncle Zhong are both present. Tang Chen's expression became relieved. I won't worry if old Qin and old Zhong can come. This matter is a great secret. Virtuous nephew, you cannot speak of this to anyone, including your future Tianhuan wife. The last words were teasing. Gongzi's eyes face turned red, but then he became serious. Uncle, do not worry. Nephew knows the importance of this and will not mention a word of it. Tang Chen nodded. I have spoken to you for so long. Go, don't like Tianhuan's little princess wait for too long. Unlike the other people that were waiting to see Xiao Yunhai become a joke, Qinghua Shui was full of confidence in Zuemo. Only she knew that Xiao Yunhai was Xiao Mogu. With her understanding of Xiao Mogu, if Xiao Mogu dared to say the words, he had great confidence in the matter. Returning from the banquet, Qinghua Shui completely calmed down and descended into her thoughts. She had found Xiao Mogu, then what should she do next? Get close to him? But how to get close to him? Qinghua Shui was frustrated. No one would have thought that Zue Mo, who had just announced that he would trade Earth Mo weapons for reverse Shadow Soul Silkgrass, was being troubled by a completely unrelated matter. That average-looking female and that strange feeling of familiarity. Zue Mo trusted his sixth sense highly. He knew this eerie feeling of familiarity would not appear without cause. He definitely had had some interaction with this person. But no matter how hard he thought, he could not find any information related to this female. In the sea of consciousness, the three discussed this matter. However, Pu Yao and Wei were sure they had never seen this female before. It really was strange. At this time, Zue Mo's body froze. A daring thought appeared. Once this thought appeared, it took over every corner of his body. Even Pu Yao and Wei didn't have an impression of her. Then this female definitely appeared before he encountered Pu Yao and Wei. Could it be? She appeared before his memories had been erased and his features changed. Chapter 701, The City Market. When Zue Mo thought about how the average-looking woman could have possibly been from before when his memories had been erased and his appearance changed, his mind could not remain calm. Because he was going to start forging Mo Wians 3 days later, the Tang family's protection eased off greatly. Other than a few guards, Zue Mo only had a Gui with him most of the time. Zue Mo was someone all of Buzhou City knew, especially when he had announced in such a flamboyant fashion that he was about to forge Mo weapons. He was the population topic of discussion. Consequently, when Zue Mo walked on the street, people continued to greet him. Of course, there were also people that were pointing at him in secret. Zue Mo's mind was full of his own thoughts. Maybe he could find a chance to probe this woman's origins? Suddenly, a guard said, Darren, this is the biggest materials market in Buzhou City. However, the majority of the items here are normal materials. He was puzzled. It was mostly low-level Mo weapon masters that came to these markets for normal materials. They did not have enough mabe to buy rare and expensive materials. Good Mo weapons usually required good materials. Even the best Mo weapon master could not forge an Earth Mo weapon with normal materials. He felt very puzzled when Grandmaster Xiao Yunhai had requested for them to take him to visit a market for normal materials. In his view, what the Grandmaster needed was the top kind of materials. Didn't he want to forge Earth Mo weapons? But the higher-ups had ordered for them to unconditionally cooperate with Grandmaster's request if it was possible. Zue Mo's stray thoughts faded. He nodded. let's go in. When they walked into the market, a wave of noise came at them. The stalls were organized neatly with large amounts of materials on display. The sound of bargaining, arguing, and cursing filled the air. It was possible to see the flushed faces everywhere. The guard couldn't help but freeze. As one of the best among the Tang family guards, the places he visited were usually elegant ones. It had been a long time since he had come to such a dirty and chaotic place. He glanced at Grandmaster out of the corner of his eyes. He saw that Grandmaster's expression was composed and without any unease. In reality, Zhuo Mo wasn't just at ease, he was slightly excited when he saw such a familiar scene. His stray thoughts were thrown away. It was like he was fired up, his eyes red, and his fighting spirit rose. The surroundings were filled with the sound of bargaining. Again, bargain, bargain, bargain. 180 mabe? Are you joking? The quality is normal, oh, and there are 3 flaws. The quality can only be considered above average. You dare to ask for 180 mabe? 100. Don't joke, he'll give you 80 at most. 15 mabe? I want 100. Are you going to sell? Let's go. I just said so. You still make a profit. Don't think that I don't know. The guard leader gaped. Grandmaster was invincible as he bargained his way down. He felt that everything that was happening in front of him was incomprehensible. A great Grandmaster was arguing furiously with other people for just a few mabe. This. Shouldn't Grandmasters sit in the private rooms, drink the best wine, and elegantly pick the treasures surrounded by beautiful females? Zhuo Mo forgot himself in bargaining and felt great pleasure. But gradually, he found the situation wasn't quite right. Temabe, sell? Sell. Zhuo Mo looked with puzzlement at the shop owner. The shop owner's expression was excited as though he wanted to sell immediately. This wasn't right, 10 mabe was definitely just above cost. He had given the other 1 mabe above. He hadn't expected the shop owner to agree immediately. Something was strange. Was there something wrong with the wares? Zhuo Mo flipped it over and inspected it for a long time. He was even more puzzled. There were no problems. Suppressing the bewilderment he felt, he took 200 of the material. His gaze landed on another kind of material. Will you sell for 7 mabe? Sell. The shop owner nodded repeatedly. Zhuo Mo raised his head and couldn't help but curse. How can you do business like this? Sell for 7 mabe? Are you crazy? This costs at least 10 mabe. Is something wrong with your head? The shop owner nodded with a dumb smile. Zhuo Mo stilled. Was this person really stupid? He raised his head and the excitement quickly receded. He immediately discovered the strangeness in the surroundings. The noisy market was silent. What was this? Zhuo Mo hurriedly looked around. When he saw everyone's gazes were on him, he understood. Cough. He hurriedly raised his head and puffed out his chest. He pointed at the things he had bought and said to the guard, "Oh, put these away." Yes. The guard leader's face was burning. Today was really a great embarrassment. He raised his head and glanced at Grandmaster. Grandmaster's expression was normal as though nothing had happened. As expected of Grandmaster, his face was thicker than normal people. Suddenly, a middle-aged person walked forward with an excited expression. Respected Grandmaster, welcome. We feel honored by your arrival. Hello. Zhuo Mo smiled. Please give us a list for what Grandmaster requires. We do not have anything good, but the quality of our low-level materials is not bad. The middle-aged person said respectfully. Zhuo Mo had come because he needed to use low-level materials. He had prepared a list before coming but hadn't expected that he would use it at this time. While he could not experience the pleasure of bargaining, it would save him effort. Zhuo Mo handed the list to the middle-aged person. The middle-aged person seemed to have a reputation here. He handed the list to the servant behind him, and the servant went away to gather materials. Does Grandmaster need assistance? The middle-aged person inquired. The guard leader spoke in displeasure. Are you qualified to be Grandmaster's assistant? The MO weapon masters in the surroundings were silent. While the guard leader's words were harsh and not easy to hear, But it was the truth. The MO weapon masters that were in this place were not very good. But Zhuo was moved. If they have talent, they may be able to learn from me. His words were pretentious, but the effect was excellent. The MO weapon masters in the surroundings became excited. Many of them had desirous expression. Even the middle-aged person was slightly excited. But he was experienced and did not lose his calm. How do we judge for the talent that Grandmaster speaks of? After thinking, Zhuo said, use MO weapons, the grade doesn't matter, just let me have a look. The guard leader felt disdain, but he could not speak now, otherwise his actions would mean not giving Grandmaster face. The MO weapon masters here were not good ones. The MO weapon masters at Buzhou City who had talent were almost all part of the Tang family. These toads wanted to eat the meat of a swan? They were delusional. He didn't understand. Grandmaster actually agreed to such a boring and meaningless matter? There were countless MO weapon masters in the Tang family that wanted to be Grandmaster's assistant. While this Grandmaster liked to boast, he was still a Grandmaster. He could not understand Zhuo's way of thinking. A pile of MO weapons were quickly laid out and presented in front of Zhuo. The guard leader took a glance and then snorted. There wasn't even a single colonel-level MO weapon here. Zhuo ignored the sneer of the guard leader. His gaze swept across the MO weapons. His gaze suddenly stopped on a dagger MO weapon. He took out the dagger, raised it up and asked, "Who made this MO weapon?" A youth with a slightly pale complexion walked out of the crowd. His face was flushed and he was excited. "Grandmaster, I made it." Zhuo then asked him a few questions. The youth responded smoothly and Zhuo confirmed that he was the one to forge the dagger. Zhuo nodded. "Starting today, you are my assistant." Gasp. The people around shouted in shock. Disbelief and joy floated into the youth's face. The middle-aged person was also very excited. He went forward and hugged the youth. Then he said solemnly, "Sproutling, be good and learn from Grandmaster." His fellows came up to congratulate him. Everyone knew that this opportunity would alter Sproutling's fate. The guard leader's face was not very good. He hadn't thought that Grandmaster would really select an assistant from here. As a guard of the Tang family, he naturally put the Tang family first. There were so many Tang family MO weapon masters waiting for the opportunity, but an outsider had gotten there first. While it was not his mistake, he could not escape being connected to this. "Grandmaster, shouldn't this?" He couldn't help but speak. Zhuo's expression darkened. "Do I need to report my actions to you?" Hearing this, the guard leader's heart jumped and he hurriedly said, "Grandmaster is joking, this one doesn't dare. But Grandmaster is of high status, and your safety should be prioritized. This person is unknown." Sproutling's face paled. Zhuo impatiently interrupted the guard leader. "I have my own way of conduct." The guard leader gritted his teeth and persisted. "If something happens to Grandmaster, and the Patriarch assigns blame, this one? Ague, throw him out," Zhuo said coolly. Ague, who had been silently standing next to Zhuo, suddenly disappeared. The guard leader was shocked. Before he could react, his neck was gripped and he wasn't able to use his own strength. Whoosh, he flew out of the market. He smashed onto the ground and wasn't able to get up for a while. The faces of the other guards changed. They were about to move, but when they saw that Ague didn't seem to have moved at all, their faces were ashen white. Their fighting spirit that had just started to burn immediately disappeared. Agui's undying Shin power had great qualities. It had no color and was extremely deceptive. "What's your name?" Zhuo asked Sproutling in a gentle gong. Sproutling gathered his courage. "Grandmaster, I don't have a name, they all call me Bean Sprout or Sproutling." "No name, your parents?" Zhuo asked. "They are dead," Sproutling said in a low voice. Zhuo was slightly surprised. He suddenly thought of himself and felt emotional, but he quickly raised his head and patted Sproutling's thin shoulder. "Your way of thinking is good, but there are some mistakes. Is there a small MO weapon pool here?" The middle-aged person knew that Zhuo was going to teach Sproutling and was overjoyed. He hurriedly said, "Yes, yes, yes." Zhuo looked at the MO weapon masters in the surroundings with desire on their faces and smiled. "You can all come watch." All of the MO weapon masters cheered. Zhuo Mo definitely would not have thought that his accidental action would. Chapter 702. The snow of the blue flower. The little MO pool in the market was low-grade and usually used by the low-level MO weapon masters who were short on money. Naturally, the results were never very good. The middle-aged person was slightly embarrassed, and all the MO weapon masters all had expressions of embarrassment. It really was lowering Grandmaster status to have him use such a low-grade MO weapon pool. It was not acceptable, but they did not have any better MO weapon pools. They looked uncertainly at Zhuo Mo. Zhuo Mo did not care. He looked at the MO weapon pool and then moved his gaze away. He turned around and faced the crowd with the dagger that Sproutling had made in his hand. The concept behind this dagger is very interesting. It has 3 primary materials: whitewood bone, ice blue stone, and concerted shine crystal. Everyone perked their ears up and focused in fear of missing a single word. I believe that everyone knows these 3 materials. Most people would use the whitewood bone as the base material, the ice blue stone to give it the trait of iciness, and then use the concerted shine crystal in order to merge the 2 together. Some of the MO weapon masters nodded. This was the basic method, and even the most ignorant MO weapon master knew it. They were curious. The more basic the materials were, the harder it was to do something new with it. They could not think how these 3 basic materials could be put together any other way. But Sproutling's thinking is unorthodox. He used the concerted shine crystal as the base, and then used the whitewood bone and the ice blue stone as materials to strengthen it. Gasps rang out. Everyone felt this recipe was impossible and unconventional. Speaking from the view of traditional MO weapon forging, this is completely against the rules. The concerted shine crystal is a very good low-level material, but it is not a material that can act as the base for a weapon because it is too soft. The MO weapon masters almost unconsciously nodded. As a result, Sproutling treated the concerted shine crystal with the sap of the fragrant leaf tree to merge gold thread amber and hardened concerted shine crystal after the whitewood bone and ice blue stone was merged. Some MO weapon masters had thoughtful expressions. This is a creative idea. Zhuo Mo's words caused Beansprout to flush. Beansprout knew just how terribly his dagger was made. Zhuo Mo changed subject. But in order to finish this line of creative thought, good forging technique is required. Whitewood bone is rarely used as a base, and people will rarely remember that it has a trait, wood thread. The entire crowd was silent, and everyone had expressions of respect. If people had a thread of doubt about Zhuo Mo's skill due to the rumors before this, then the doubt now disappeared. Even the basic materials in Grandmaster's mouth had all kinds of transformations. In the eyes of many people, wood thread is a trait that isn't useful, but if it is used well, it will have unusual effects. Finishing his analysis, he started to throw materials towards the MO weapon pool. With each item, he would say the name of the material, and then explain why he was using this material as well as the details that one needed to pay attention to. The MO weapon masters didn't dare to make a sound. They were like Zhuo Mo's students and listened with a tinge of devoutness. Low-level MO weapon masters did not have any status in society. Their income was low, and making a living was difficult. Their skill was crude, which meant they were unable to make fine MO weapons. Their income was limited, which in turn caused them to lose the possibility of improving. They knew just how rare this chance was. A grandmaster was giving them a lecture. This was the only and the most important class in their life. Their gazes as they looked at Zhuo Mo were filled with sincere respect and gratefulness. They memorized Zhuo Mo's practice skill and the contents he spoke casually off. The usually noisy market was completely silent. Zhuo Mo's voice was the only sound that echoed. All of the shop owners did not make a sound. They knew the difficulties of these low-level MO masters. Many of them were friends. They did not understand deep principles, but they were infected by this devoutness, yearning, and passion. In this moment, in this place that only recognized Mabe, there was no low and high status of society. Afterwards, a completely new style of MO weapon masters would form from here. They preferred simple and practical materials. They aimed to be creative. They were enthusiastic about the spread of MO weapon skills. They had a special name. They were the market MO weapon masters. Those damned bastards. The guard leader gritted his teeth. Ague was never light-handed when she attacked. While he wasn't wounded, he was left disheveled and there was a large green bruise on his face. He quickly noticed the burning gazes in the surroundings and wanted to find a crack in the ground to hide in. One of the guard leaders of the Tang family was left in such a sorry state. At this time, a familiar, grave and murderousness voice sounded. Old 3, what happened? He climbed up from the ground with embarrassment. Head. What happened? Boss' face was murderousness and his gaze vicious. He was sitting on top of his MO steed that seemed to be a small mountain. The steed's 4 limbs seemed to be made from iron, the long tail spiked. There was an arm-thick horn at its forehead that flashed with a blue light. This was a sword-tail blue-hone rhinoceros. It was vicious and battle-hungry, a powerful offensive MO steed. The Grandmaster? Head immediately understood and his face abruptly changed. His eyes flashed with a cold light as he said, even a Grandmaster doesn't qualify to run rampant on our Tang family's land. He had disliked Xiao Yunhai's proud attitude a long time ago. The Tang family treated him as an honored guest, yet he was so proud. Even if he might be punished by the patriarch today, he would teach that person who did not know his limits whose land he was on. Big brother, be careful of that servant of his, the guard leader gritted out. Yes, I will cripple her, Head said coolly. When he finished speaking, he picked up a long spear hanging from the MO steed. He looked towards the depth of the market. Xiao Yunhai's voice was coming faintly from it. It was unusually silent inside. He did not care. He had absolute confidence in his own power. He nudged the sword-tail blue-horn rhinoceros under his body. With every step, the ground trembled slightly. Clip-boom, clip-boom. The head of the sword-tail blue-horn rhinoceros started to lower. The blue horn flashed with a soul-shaking light. A low howl came from its mouth. Its heavy breathing showed that it was gathering its strength. The head had a secure grip on the long spear in his hand. His cold face seemed to be carved from stone. The battle spirit that came from the MO steed under him caused his eyes to rapidly turn red. The icy feeling from the long spear in his hand removed the last stray thought in his mind. Qinghua Shui was enchanted as she listened. There was a knowing smile on her lips. Actually, she didn't understand what Zhuo Mo was saying at all. For a Yao, MO weapon forging was so cryptic it was like trying to read the heavens. But she could feel the unique atmosphere of the market. She did not realize that there was a respectful expression on her face. The Xiao Mo Gu in front of her was so unfamiliar. It was unlike the Xiao Mo Gu that Qinghua Shui had seen in the mirages. There was natural and indescribable presence emanating from his body. She had been paying attention to Zhuo Mo all this time. Zhuo Mo had not concealed his tracks and she had quickly followed him as he left the Tang Manor. Ning Shiner couldn't help but tease, but had agreed to help cover her for. They were not like Ji Liu who could come and go as she wished. Qinghua Shui had seen the entire course of events. She had never thought that Xiao Mo Gu would pay attention to the lowest level of MO weapon masters. Compared to the strict class structure of the MO, the Yao were slightly better, but even for the Yao no Grandmaster would be like this. Definitely not. The Grandmasters were of great status, far above these MO weapon masters of the lowest class. But such a scene was happening in front of her, and the reason was Xiao Mo Gu that she had been searching all this time. When her gaze swept across the respect and devoutness on the aces of these low-level MO weapon masters, she suddenly was moved. For some unknown reason, an enormous figure suddenly blocked the entrance to the market. A strong killing energy was like a cold and snowy wind that blew in. The temperature inside the market immediately dropped. A cold snort exploded like thunder. The MO weapon masters that had weak MO skills changed expression in unison. Qinghua Zhu's pupils suddenly contracted. An enormous figure charged like a strong wind. Qinghua Shui's body reacted immediately. Like a blue bolt of lightning, she suddenly appeared in front of the other's path. When she blocked the other, she suddenly realized what she had done. Unrelated people move. The thunderous and furious howl, along with the roar of the wind and the rumble of the ground shaking, echoed through the entire market. Several serene blue flowers floated up from her hand. Blue flower? What was she doing? Having suddenly realized this, Qinghua Shui's face burned, but at this time, she did not have the attention to question her reaction. While she was from a branch family, she possessed the greatest talent among the youngest generation of the Qinghua family. All of this was displayed now. In the eyes of everyone else, Qinghua Shui's gaze was as sharp as a sword. At this time, she was like an unsheathed sword. She was fearless. She had discovered her weakness in the fight against Zuemo. Her talent was outstanding, but she had lacked combat experience. She had strength, but there was not much of it she could express. But now, after resolving that, her power had skyrocketed. The present her was not the same as in the past. The moment the blue flowers floated up, she detected a pause from Xiao Emogu behind her. While that pause was imperceptible, it caused her fighting spirit to rise to the peak. All of her terror and timidity disappeared. In this moment, she only had one thought: she was going to show her power in front of Xiao Emogu. Show all of it. Chapter 703. Interference. The beautiful yet fragile blue flowers caused the leader of the Tang family guards to feel a trembling in his heart. He immediately threw away all of his underestimation and condescension. His narrowed eyes were now full of wariness. Who was this woman? The blue flowers floating in his view brimmed with hidden killing intent. The head's gaze turned grave. His legs squeezed, and the sword-tail blue-horn rhinoceros under him accelerated in response. Its enormous body was like an arrow leaving the bow. It left afterimages in the air, and the deep roar immediately disappeared. A point of blinding cold light seemed to come out of the air, and quickly spread among the blue flowers. The space around the blue flowers seemed to solidify. The point of blinding cold energy was like a whirlpool that sucked countless blue flowers towards the dot like moths to a flame. Something from nothingness spear. The head's stone-like cold face appeared after the point of cold energy faded. He detected the power of the blue flowers, and his first move was a killing move. A light flashed across Zuemo, who was beside the Mo weapon pool. He was shocked inside. This strike contained laws of domain. With just this strike, this person could be counted among the ranks of experts. It's something from nothingness spear. Wei was slightly surprised. Such a strange name, Zuemo couldn't resist saying. Wei chatted that this something from nothingness spear is the peak work for spear-type Mo skills. Ever since it was created, it was one of the most powerful spear-type Mo skills. However, it is extremely difficult to cultivate. I had thought it was lost and had not expected to see it today. Zuemo found it easy to multitask. He had no difficulty splitting his attention when forging a low-level Mo weapon. Most of his attention was on the two people fighting. He recognized Qinghua Shui. He had a deep impression of her from that fight against in the Ten-Finger Prison. Pu Yao and Wei also recognized her. This girl seems much stronger than last time. Pu Yao was slightly shocked. It is definitely because our strong little Mo stole her heart. She worked hard, and see, she chased him all the way to the Mo territories. Such a good girl. Wei was like a gossiping old woman. Zuemo was so disgusted by that little Mo, he almost ruined the Mo weapon in the Mo weapon pool. He was furious. Wei, I said that you aren't allowed to call me little Mo. Pu Yao nodded and said, this girl's, blue flower, is pretty good. However, is there something wrong with the minds of the Qinghua family? They have let such a talent out without any protection? Aren't they afraid that something will happen? Maybe she sneaked out of her home and has come in search of our little Mo. Wei inserted. Zuemo gritted through his teeth. Wei, I said not to call me little Mo. At this time, Pu Yao rubbed his chin and said seriously, Azwa, how about you seduce her? Recruit her. Give me half a year, I definitely can create an expert. Zhuo Mo realized that it was a dead end to talk to these two heartless people. He decided to ignore the two scoundrels and put his attention on the fight occurring. The space around the two fighting was now twisting and crumbling. That point of cold energy was as bright as a star. The blue flowers flew towards the dot of cold energy as though they were being sucked into a whirlpool. Qinghua Shui felt slight shock at the other's spear thrust, but she didn't feel any fear. Her mind was focused. She spread her arms. Her straight back, her full chest, her tight waist and pert behind formed a soul-stealing curving figure. In this moment, the painting seemed to be set. A beautiful curve, a young face with the eyes slightly closed. One had to sigh at the wonder of creation. Qinghua Shui had a small confident smile on her face that was tinged with piousness. It was like the last stroke that made the drawing come to life. Her long and white fingers were wrapped in threads of blue energy. Zing! A high metallic sound spread across the entire field. The cold energy lit up and the blue flowers that were pulled in were torn into pieces. Qinghua Shui opened her eyes at this moment. Each of her eyes had a blue flower floating in them. The two blue flowers slowly spun. Blue sprouts suddenly appeared on her hands. These sprouts grew at an astounding rate. In a blink, the blue vines almost completely took over the space between the two fighters. When these blue vines were furiously grown, the head had a strong feeling of danger. When they had just came into contact, he did not know what these blue flowers were. However, when he destroyed these dangerous blue flowers, he knew that these were Yao arts. This fragile female in front of him was a Yao. The head immediately started to hesitate. Such a powerful Yao was definitely part of the Yao envoy. The patriarch had ordered them not to offend the Yao envoys. This Yao envoy was the first one that the government of the Yao had sent in the last decade. Behind them was the highest authority of the Yao, the Council of Elders. This caused the head to have second thoughts, yet when he found that the surrounding space was almost completely taken over by the blue vines, his expression changed. All of his hesitations were thrown away. The strong murderousness from the young woman caused his hairs to stand on end. Such a vicious girl. The other was trying to kill him. Experienced in battle, the head immediately understood that if he did not fight with his full power, his life would probably end here. The sword-tail blue-horn rhinoceros under him also detected danger and gave a low growl. The head patted the restless sword-tail blue-horn rhinoceros and it immediately calmed down. In his field of view, the packed blue vines were like an enormous cage. The blue flowers were blossoming on the vine and the number was astounding. Domain. The other was a Yao expert that had also comprehended domain. The head bowed his body slightly and tightened his grip on the long spear. Azwa, this is a bit like your Yao art cages. Pu Yao was the first to discover this. Wei was immediately excited. Proof. Proof. This is proof. Little Mo, she clearly has been in love with you for a long time. Zhuo was also slightly surprised. Qinghua Shui's blue flower cage was very similar to the Yao art cages he had once used in the Ten-Finger Prison. This similarity wasn't just in shape, but in many crucial parts of its structure. However, Zhuo snorted at Weiss' clearly one-sided thinking. It most likely was that the other was not willing to accept her past defeat. She had searched for his mirages to search for his weakness and incorporated what she learned in her own style. Zhuo felt that his line of thinking was more reliable. The other had stopped this attack for him probably with the intention that she could have a fair battle with him after. While the other's powerful blue flowers had grown in power and caused Zhuo's blood to heat slightly, when he thought of the trouble that would be caused if his identity was exposed, Zhuo's fighting spirit quickly disappeared. It really was troublesome. Zhuo started to ponder another important question. Had this woman recognized him already? She definitely had. For some reason, Zhuo had this strong feeling. Maybe it was Qinghua Shui's strong fighting spirit that stimulated him. He had a high confidence that the other had recognized him. Damn it. When Zhuo realized this, he had a headache. He had to think of what to do next. What to do about it. Sacrifice yourself. Little Mo. Wei excitedly suggested. Sacrifice yourself. Aswa. Pu Yao was serious. But then dark snickered echoed in the sea of consciousness. Zuemo had no more hopes for these two. Suddenly, a voice interrupted Zuemo's thoughts. Fighting and killing is not good. If there is time, everyone should drink together. A cold wind energy suddenly appeared in front of Qinghua Shui and the head. This wind appeared suddenly without any warning. A thread of shock flickered through Qinghua Shui's eyes. She didn't even know how the wind that broken through her blue flower cage. The head that had just been about to attack suddenly froze. He could not suppress the shock in his eyes. The wind was at his side, but he hadn't detected it at all. Unfathomable power. The beautiful, blue flower cage shattered into fragments of energy. Qinghua Shui released her Yao art. The restless sword-tail blue horn rhinoceros was docile and the head's terrifying presence had disappeared. A figure slowly walked out. It was Feng Xianxia. When she found that the person was Feng Xianxia, Qinghua Shui's expression recovered as though nothing had happened. She went forward and bowed. Darren, it seems that the Blue Flower family made a wrong judgment. Feng Xianxia smiled and said, I remember that you are from a branch family? Yes, Darren, Qinghua Shui replied with an indifferent expression. Good. Feng Xianxia nodded and then said coolly, no matter what ideas you have, since you are a member of the envoys, you have to consider and not make trouble for everyone. Darren is right, Shui was rash, Qinghua Shui said apologetically. Feng Xianxia saw her good attitude and nodded. He turned and said to the head, this one's subordinate is young and ignorant to offend sire. Sire, please have tolerance. The head looked deeply at Feng Xianxia, who had a gentle smile on his face without any unease. Then he left without a word. When the sword-tail blue horn rhinoceros left the market, the MO weapon masters in the market finally relaxed. They had been at Buzhou City for a long time and knew how bad the temper of the Tang family head guard was. Killing was a simple matter for him. Even the guards of the Tang family feared their head and that they would be killed if they angered him. The gazes of the MO weapon masters landed on Feng Xianxia, all of them with respect and awe, especially the women. Some even have infatuated eyes. Feng Xianxia's appearance was handsome and his smile friendly. He had a sunny aura, and his power great. No matter where, this kind of person would shine like the sun. Feng Xianxia looked in interest at the MO weapon pool as though he had never seen a MO weapon being forged before. When another figure walked out, the crowd immediately shifted. When the peerlessly beautiful Ji Liu arrived, all the light of the market seemed to gather on her. She walked next to Feng Xianxia and thoughtfully glanced at the indifferent Qinghua Shui before moving her gaze to Zuemo. Something strange suddenly was occurring at the MO weapon pool. Chapter 704. Taken to control, the black pool water gradually became clear. It was possible to see to the bottom. There wasn't any impurity. A blue dagger silently laid at the bottom of the pool. The surrounding MO weapon masters stretched out their necks in hope they could see the newly forged MO weapon. Everyone was very curious what the low-level materials could do in the hands of a MO weapon grandmaster. Zuemo's hand shook slightly. The dagger suddenly flew out of the pool and landed in his hand. People found to their shock that there was an extremely thin gray shadow at the end of the dagger that was difficult to see with the naked eye. The smarter people immediately thought of the trait of the white wood bone that was easily missed. Wood thread. Zuemo had perfectly and carefully modified all the details of the dagger. The MO matrices on the surface of the dagger were exquisite and elegant. The dagger was as thin as a piece of paper. It was covered in blue MO matrices, which made it seem like a work of art rather than a weapon to kill. Zuemo did not use MO matrices of high level. These low-level materials could not tolerate high-level MO matrices. The MO weapon masters present almost all recognized every MO matrix on the dagger, but Zuemo had spent some effort on choosing and matching the MO matrices. The unique trait of the ice blue stone was completely expressed and gave the dagger the attribute of ice. However, Zuemo used a MO matrix that would conceal its energy to hide the ice. When the dagger left the user's hand, it wouldn't be possible to detect any icy presence. The white wood bone increased the dagger's flexibility. Its wood thread trait was the attribute that Zhuo had strengthened the most. The strong wood threads were treated with shadow fluid to make it even stronger and harder to detect. The concerted shine crystal was a material that was usually used during changes. It was used as the base to make the base even more suitable for transformation. The main body of the base was covered in shadow MO matrices that could cause it to turn to shadow. Zhuo had set down armor-breaking MO matrices at the blade edge of the dagger. The armor-breaking MO matrices and the ice MO matrices were connected, and they would touch the hand together. The MO matrix at the handle of the dagger was called interlink. It could increase the synchronization between the MO weapon and the user. When this dagger passed among the hands of the MO weapon masters, everyone was stunned by this work. Brigadier-level MO weapon. This was a MO weapon suited for assassination. If it was sold at any auction, it could easily be sold for 2 million mabe, yet the cost of the materials was just 600 mabe. As expected of the Grandmaster. These MO weapon masters were completely stunned by Zhuo's ability to turn trash into treasure. Low-level materials just worth 600 mabe was able to forge a brigadier-level MO weapon that was over 2 million mabe in value. Such skill was uncanny, yet they were able to understand the entire process, and Zhuo had not hidden any of his thoughts. They even recognized the MO matrices, but they would still be unable to make one. Even some intermediate and high-level MO weapon masters would not be able to put so many MO matrices on the little dagger, much less these low-level MO weapon masters. But this little MO weapon gave them great inspiration. Zhuo's way of thinking and his use of MO matrices were different than the traditional MO weapon masters. Good MO weapon? Ji Liu suddenly gave a compliment. Her voice was soft and pleasing to hear. Miss Ji is too complimentary. Zhuo nodded politely at the other. He still remembered Tang Chen's introduction at the banquet. In the Sea of Consciousness, Pu Yao asked Zhuo, "Do you still remember her? Have we met before?" Zhuo stilled and asked, "Then why do you remember the Qinghua family female?" Pu Yao asked. "Because of love." Wei came over to say. Zhuo rolled his eyes. "Of course I remember her after fighting her." Pu Yao was slightly excited. "Just like me in the past, not enchanted by beauty." Wei interrupted with a sympathetic expression. "Now I know why you still yearned after Boss, and can't forget her after thousands of years. How hard did Boss beat you up in the past?" Pu Yao's expression froze on his face, and quickly became twisted. These two were really lively now. Zhuo came out of the Sea of Consciousness. However, he didn't have any impression of Ji Liu. Ji Liu was slightly discontent. From the start, this Xiao Yunhai didn't seem to have any patience for her. Even if she took the initiative, the others still had an indifferent wooden face. She questioned, did this person even have any other expression? Her beauty that never failed didn't seem to have any use on him. Ji Liu was very perceptive. While Zhuo did not say anything to Qinghua Shui, but she detected that Zhuo had more of an interest in Qinghua Shui than in her. She was not in a good mood. While she did not feel that Xiao Yunhai was great, and there was nothing about him that attracted her, the others' dismissal of her stirred her desire to win. Did that Qinghua Shui qualify to steal the limelight from her? "This MO weapon is very beautiful. Can Mr. give it to Liu?" Ji Liu controlled her performance to the perfect degree and looked hopefully at Zhuo. Zhuo almost said, 2 million mabe, thanks for your patronage, but managed to react. He forced a smile and said, "My apologies, this MO weapon is an example for the public and will be placed at the market." That really is a regret. Ji Liu's enchanting smile did not fade. "Does Mr. Xiao have time tonight?" "Very sorry, this one has other matters to attend to tonight." Zhuo shook his head and refused directly. Disappointment finally appeared on Ji Liu's face. Her brow creased and she looked pitifully at Zhuo. The surrounding people all had expressions of conflict. They all felt that Grandmaster treating Ji Liu like this was cruel. They didn't dare to speak up because of Grandmaster's high status. If this was any other person, they would have rushed in to beat the person up. Zhuomo's MO skill was high and his mind strong. Unless it was against freaks like eldest Xixiang, Zhuo thought he would not be weaker than anyone. Ji Li's charm clothing had negligible effects on Zhuo. Ji Liu was now actually slightly angry. She had almost never begged like this, and hadn't thought that she would encounter resistance today. The proud Ji Liu said coldly, "Then this one will not delay Grandmaster." Finished, she turned to leave. Feng Xianxia had a grimace on his face as he raised his hand in farewell to Zhuo. "Grandmaster, do not be angry, her temper is like this. This one will bid farewell. If there is time, let's go drinking together." Then he turned to say to Qinghua Shui, "There is nothing going on recently. If you are interested in MO weapons, why don't you assist Grandmaster? You have to listen to Grandmaster's orders." Qinghua Shui's expression was not too surprised or joyed. She coolly bowed and said, "Yes." Feng Xianxia looked deeply at Qinghua Shui. For the first time, he felt as though he could not see through this little girl from the branch family of the Blue Flower family. This was not a woman that would follow the herd. However, it fit into Feng Xianxia's aims that she was interested in Xiao Yunhai. Feng Xianxia had been frustrated over being unable to get close to Xiao Yunhai. While there were no clues that Xiao Yunhai and Xiao Mogu were related, Feng Xianxia had a feeling that the two definitely had a connection. When Zhuo heard Feng Xianxia's words, he frowned. In his view, Qinghua Shui was big trouble. This person who knew his identity was a bomb that could explode at any time. He hadn't expected Feng Xianxia to have her follow him around. He was just about to speak, but Feng Xianxia did not give him a chance to speak and disappeared. Qinghua Shui greets Grandmaster. "Grandmaster, please tell me if there is something to be done," Qinghua Shui said with a faint smile. For some unknown reason, she felt as though the dark clouds had dissipated and the sun was so bright. Qinghua Shui. So she was called Qinghua Shui. The more he looked at her, the more Zhuo felt that the words, "the scheme was successful," was written on her face. He immediately had a headache. But he could not kill her. "What do you think we should do?" Zhuo could only find Pu Yao and Wei to discuss. "Sacrifice yourself, little Mo. This will take care of everything," Wei said determinedly. If Zhuo had a knife in his hand, he would throw it towards Wei. "Zhuo, you have to think of a way to get her on your side," Pu Yao said seriously. "It seems that we have to first discuss the problem of rent." Zhuo gritted his teeth. Wei immediately slipped away. Pu Yao's expression froze, but then he said with concern as though nothing had happened, "You know that it is very likely she will expose you. The best way to deal with such a threat is to kill such a dangerous woman. Dead people cannot speak. However, you cannot do this now, but you can go for the alternative. Bring her on your side, let her stay within your control. This will lower the risk that you will be exposed." This seemed reasonable. Zhuo thought. He had to admit that Pu Yao's words were reasonable. "Then how can I get her on my side?" Zhuo asked. Pu Yao thought and said, "Two ways. I see that Qinghua Shui has intentions of coming to your side. This shouldn't be a big problem. However, you have to consider the Yao envoy. She is a member of the envoy and you need the agreement of the envoy." The agreement of the envoy? Zhuo felt the matter was far more troublesome than he had imagined. He was full of regret. Why did he fight Qinghua Shui in the past? On the surface, the leader of the envoy is Ji Liu, but I think the true commander is Feng Xianxia. Pu Yao said solemnly. "You have to be careful. This person is cunning and powerful. He is not easy to deal with." "Well, deal with Feng Xianxia later." Zhuo also felt that Feng Xianxia would be difficult to deal with. He decided to put this problem to the side and asked a more practical question. "What can I do to get her completely in my control?" "Have her look after your daily matters," Pu Yao darkly said. This idea was pretty good. Looking at Qinghua Shui that was waiting for him to speak, Zhuo threw away his thoughts of getting her as far away as possible. His tone changed. "Then from today, you can take of my daily matters. Bean Sprout is responsible for the duties related for MO weapon forging." A smile appeared at the corner of Qinghua Shui's mouth. "Many thanks, Grandmaster." Bean Sprout also bowed. "I will definitely work hard." He had to get her in his control. Zua Mo gritted his teeth and reminded himself that you're tuning into the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.